everyone. Welcome to another live episode of the Outlaw Nation Show, coming to you live from the Outlaw Nation Studios here in the heart of San Diego, California. That's right. Don't come try to find me, though. It's a big city. You're not going to find me. There's no damn way you're going to find me. I'll shoot you off my porch. That's how I feel about it. I'm the Outlaw, for God's sakes. Anyway, I am the Outlaw, John Rocha. Excited to be having a couple of guests on in just a few minutes. These are two gentlemen that I've known for quite some time. I mean, I've known them so long that I've seen their regular hair color turn gray. That's how long I've known them, and I'm excited to have them on the show. They are two of the fastest mother effers in the West in terms of the kind of in terms of their whip smart commentaries, their humor. I've been on their show multiple times, the Movie Guys podcast. A lot of fun doing it in the garage out of Paul's house. That was a blast to be on there every single time. Of course, getting the chance to work with the lovely Karen Volpe before she passed a number of times. One of the true highlights of my life. Plus, this SOB Paul Preston, who is one of the guests tonight, along with Adam Witt. He is responsible for me meeting one of my pro wrestling heroes, Mick Foley, in person, doing one of those shows. So highlights of my life certainly attached to Paul Preston. Of course, we know each other through mutual friends like Shannon McClung and Mike Kalinowski. You guys know Kalinowski from the Schmodown, McClung from the Geek Buddies. So great stuff all around. These two gentlemen are very, very funny. So we'll bring them on in just a few minutes. But just want to update you all and check in. Hope you all are doing well. I know the world is going crazy out there. We got Democrats fleeing Texas, hiding out people's shelters. We got a Delta variant rolling around. But hey, things are still coming back to normal. Theaters are opening. People are going to see these movies. You know, we just had a big, big debut for Black Widow, following on the heels of Fast 9. So everything entertainment-wise seems to be grinding back into shape, and those wheels are starting to move much more quickly, and we're getting so many. I mean, today we had that Korg and Deadpool 2 stuff. Then we had the Seeing Red or Turning Red trailer this morning that came out from Pixar. So more and more stuff is starting to happen. More and more stuff starting to be previewed. So it's a great time right now. And here on the Outlaw Nation channel, we're doing a lot more as well. I hope you noticed more trailer reactions have been happening. For those of you who are big video game fans, I dropped my first video game trailer reaction yesterday for FIFA 22. We've got John and Wendy Explain the World. We had Game Time yesterday. Me and JTE are going to be doing this a duo for the next few weeks until the NFL starts. Then we'll be bringing back the whole crew to hang out and talk NFL every week. We've also got so much going on in terms of interviews, reviews, all that stuff happening here on the channel. And for those who are Patreon members, we got those shows kicking off, starting back again this week. Criterion Corner this week. Next week, Ask the Outlaw. And then to round out the month of July, it is the Outlaw Rides Again, where me and my co-host Sol Galvin, who you know from the Ultimate Schmodown After Show, go back and rewatch one of my matches or one of a classic Schmodown matches that I may not even be in, and we talk about it, relive it, and take questions from some of the patrons there as well. So those are some of the great stuff. Plus, you get 2 hangouts a week, and of course, they've been hanging out doing their own thing without me as well, doing watch-alongs and whatever. So it's a great crew of people here in the patrons of the Outlaw Nation. So think about coming aboard, joining, and having some fun with us. Trust me, not toxic, drama-free. No one's talking shit about anybody, which I hear happens in other places. We don't do that in the Outlaw Nation. You guys know I rule it with an iron hand to make sure everyone is. I'm a benevolent dictator, some might say. There you go. So that's what's going on here in the world. I hope you saw my Pixar trailer reaction. I dropped it this morning. I will be dropping a reaction to that core Deadpool 2 stuff tomorrow morning as well. And then I'm watching that documentary now for Val Kilmer. I will have a review up for that. And also the first 6 episodes of Ted Lasso. I got those in my mailbox yesterday, so I'll be watching those as well. And Schmodown. So much happening here in the world of the Outlaw Nation. But that's enough of conversation about me. We're going to focus on the two gentlemen who are coming in to be my guests tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please get your money ready. Get those Streamlabs ready. Get those Super Chats ready. These gentlemen are here to hang out, have a little fun with us for the next couple of hours, entertain you, and you all better step up to the plate. Give them some love. Give them some respect, and send in your Streamlabs and Super Chats as we go along. Streamlabs address right below me, there, right there, and also in the description of this video. And I'll be putting it in the chat and pinning it there for you all as well. And please remember to hit a like on this as we go along. And if you're watching it later, please leave a comment. Appreciate that, along with a like. All right. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the show two gentlemen who are part of the Movie Guys, movieguys.net. They have a new podcast called The Ford Fiesta. I remember making out with a girl in high school in one of those, and that is one of their podcasts now. I've seen them do and be a part of a million things, and they're great commentaries on movie. And of course, they are stars in the Schmodown as well, in two different factions, the Den and the Dungeon, doing their thing and becoming favorites of the Schmodown fans for sure. So without further ado, please welcome the great Paul Harrison Ford Preston and Adam Harrison Ford Witt. Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome.
Oh, hello. Just reading the
I didn't know we were doing
Ford
props.
Story. No, sorry, you caught me in the middle of reading the Harrison Ford story. Got to stay sharp for the podcast. Sorry, I'll set that over here next to the Raiders of the Lost Ark Illustrated screenplay. But I'll just set that over here too.
Nice.
Thanks. Okay. Hi.
Is this where I go get John Williams' autograph? Off
You want to borrow the films of Harrison Ford? It's okay. I'll just put that on.
See, toxic men measure their penises. Nerds measure what they've accrued over the years. That's the difference in showing in that situation. How are you, boys? How are things? How are you feeling? How's life?
I felt pretty good before we even started this podcast, though. 3 people already hit dislike on YouTube. How the hell does that even happen?
Some people subscribe to the channel just to hate. I'm not going to tell you who they might be.
So I'm doing the show for the 11 people who liked it before we even began. So there we go.
Isn't that amazing though that people just love to hate so much? They're like, I'm going to go dislike this. I felt that way about movies for years, long before Twitter and stuff. You're like, did everyone come here just so they could hate this movie? I'm like, that was a terrible reason to go to a movie.
I always love describing Adam I like describing Adam. Adam could probably describe himself, but I like describing him because I've seen his love of movies now for 11 years doing the Movie Guys and then going back to the 90s before that. So Adam, here's a good example of Adam. Hey, I hear that Punisher movie, the new Punisher movie's not that great. This is like, let's say it's Warzone, right? I said, I hear it's not that great. He'll go, oh, there's 2 Punisher movies. That's the best. Yeah, I hear it's not all that great. Yeah, there's 2 of them.
They made another one.
So that's who you're dealing with. The guy's a permanent optimist, and I appreciate that.
They have to exist. Adam, you have to exist to balance out the eternal pessimists, right?
I exist too. It's like picking on other people. That's not my thing. I was never bullied in school, anything like that. I was more picked on. But I will, to my dying breath, the only person I love making fun of is anybody who aggressively dislikes pop culture and thinks that that critic attitude of oh, you have to earn my love of a movie. Oh, I'm not going to call it a masterpiece because that has to be earned of me. It's no masterpiece. That sort of guy. What'd you think of Black Widow? It's no masterpiece. What are you even talking about? You're setting up such an egregiously terrible standard.
I am the arbiter of all masterpieces. It is not qualified for me.
Wasn't Toy Story 3 running at 99% on Rotten Tomatoes for the longest? Or no, 100. Then it took down to 99. It's like, who's the asshole? Come on. Turns out it was Rick.
That movie.
Well, let's start there. How did you guys come together? How did you guys meet? How did this all happen? Because I got to know you guys when you guys were already a trio when I met you. Or actually, a quartet when I met you all. But you two are the only two I've seen from the Movie Guys in the last couple of years. So how is it that you guys came together? How did this all happen for you? And you mentioned the 90s, Paul. Is that how far back you guys go?
Yeah, very much so. I've told the story a few times, Paul. Do you want to tell the story? Because it's a very funny story of how Paul and I came together.
Well, you do in Chicago, you study improv, and then you end up in some wacky comedy show. So I was in something called Theater Catabasis. Catabasis, if you don't know, is Latin for pretentious. So I was doing this show.
It's a play that existed to be looked up. I'm going to look that up in the dictionary before I go see that.
And I wrote, but you got to write for it, so I wrote a couple of comedy sketches, and one of them had some, oddly, a Harrison Ford reference in it. And from the back, Adam's in the audience. Turns out he's videotaping the show, and he goes, "Ha!" I'm like, okay, who's that guy? That's the guy who this was for. So we end up meeting afterwards, end up hanging out, and we realized that we should be going to movies together. So we decided to go see everything that year that came out. That we're going to do the summer of everything. So it starts with The Lost World, Jurassic
The Lost
Park,
World,
right?
Yes.
And we go out to McClure Court, Chicago. We go to see Lost World. I'm like, oh man, that was great. Spielberg in full effect. What's next? Speed 2 Cruise Control. Oh, all right, well, we're committed.
They made 2 Speed
We
movies.
committed. They made a second Speed. Well, there you go. I mean, that's probably what, I remember getting in a cab and making sure to pick up Paul after work and like so we could get to that. I was probably pretty excited. I'm like, come on, they made another Speed movie.
Yeah. I'd go see it, but yeah, well, it was not the greatest summer for movies, but we had a great time. And
well, did you have other movie friends, and then Adam kind of took his place, or did Paul take their place, or was this the kind of thing where you guys were kind of lone wolves, and then you found an easy friendship that allowed you guys to go to see all these movies together very quickly?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I can speak for Paul here, but I just have to say, and I think I can speak for you, John. There comes a moment in everybody's life as a movie fan where, I guarantee we all had exactly the same childhoods of obsession, where around maybe 7th grade or something like that, you're like, you mean not everybody has Caddyshack memorized?
Oh, yeah.
You're like, wait, you guys haven't seen all of the Harrison Ford's movies? Wait a second. I remember my friends would come over and we would go play outside. We had acres of woods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I was like, hey, I just discovered this great movie called Terminator. I'm like, who wants to see it? And they're like, no, I think we're going to go shoot guns out back. Or I think that, my friend was putting together a slot car. He's like, I want to play slot cars. I'm like, nobody wants to see the Terminator. This movie is so good. And I'm like, oh, I'm different then. So I don't know, Paul. I at that time, I definitely knew I liked movies more than so many people.
Yeah.
The average person likes movies, but we're on a different level.
Yeah, I mean, my friends. I had a friend in 6th, 7th grade. He would invite me over, and I had a lot of nerdy friends in the first few years of being in middle school and high school. And he would invite me over to watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail, so he could recite the whole movie line by line. This happened on multiple occasions.
Different level.
But I would go and hang out with him because I didn't hang out with a lot of people and have a lot of friends at the time. I was bullied a lot, so he was the one guy I could go hang out with. Paul, did you have that, or were you just a cool kid in high school?
Well, first of all, that was like going to Monty Python picture show or Rocky Horror Holy Grail or whatever. They got the cast acting it out down in front of the screen itself. No, I was much like Adam. I think I had an appreciation for movies that was just way beyond everyone. I was kind of waiting for the world to catch up. And by the time I got into college, I think I found people who were like that. But honestly, Adam, probably the first that was as intense about it as I was. And now, of course, you get in the Schmodown, you realize that's your tribe. And
dude,
and suddenly all your references are like, oh, most everyone gets that. Oh, that's great.
There is that level, where you realize in high school, you're like, no, nobody likes it. But then you get to college and you get, people closer to it. My friend Fred Mowery, Paul, I went into his dorm and it was nothing but James Horner soundtracks. And I'm like, that's not every dorm I walk into,
Yeah.
But
taped to the wall or glued to the wall, the CD, the soundtracks or the CD. I remember people put CDs on walls. It was nuts. Yeah.
Well, they were the long boxes was the fun thing to put up on your wall. Back in now we're really dating ourselves. There were long boxes once upon a time.
Yeah, but I miss those days because you could walk into a house and immediately take a look at the DVDs, CDs, and judge these people.
You're right.
You got to go into their computer and who this time. So it's like I got to make up what I think about you as we talk or whatever. But
that's a good
I used
point.
to be able to know right away.
You ever judge someone on their DVD collection? You're like, they seem like a nice guy. You end up at their house and you're like, Tomcats? Well, who buys that? Or whatever.
When I was growing up, it was what were the ones where they had deaths, the faces of death, the many faces of death. Yeah, right. If they had that stuff, I was out the door. I was like, nah, I'm not going to hang out. This seems like a dark place for me to be around.
Who buys that for
who buys them? Or the Mundo ones, whatever the Mundo ones that were
Mondo
from
Cane.
Mondo Cane, right? Yeah. I was like, wow, no, this is the wrong place for me.
You want to see a turtle beat to death with a hammer? No, I do not.
We can do it because it's in a different country.
No. Yeah. There was me before Cannibal Holocaust, then there's me after Cannibal Holocaust. They're decidedly different people.
What are you doing, Sean? Sorry, Sean just changed the graphics. Sean, what are you doing? Sean, stop hitting things.
Should we talk in a different manner when we change genres here?
No, he's watching the Yankee game, so he gets distracted. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Keep going. Sorry, Paul. There are angels there too, John.
Oh, I apologize.
Well, one thing I wanted to say was there's a difference between, you have all of James Horner's soundtracks, and when I met Paul, there's a difference between dropping an Alan Pakula reference and having the other person go, oh, yeah, that's right, it presumed innocent, or whatever, You're like, what? You caught that?
I think that's the craziest thing about being part of the Schmodown. And you guys, of course, have been in it for a couple of years now. Like, yes, it's your tribe, and then it becomes competitive because it becomes like, how do you know this much more than I do about movies? Or how do you all get like, damn it, I need to know more about this or that. Or I thought I was the one that really knew a lot or had organic. And you find out there's more people like that have an organic connection to film. And it's a joy to discover. But at the same time, it's when you're going for titles or belts or wins, it can be a bit overwhelming. Like, damn, even I have holes in my resume and I thought I didn't,
Yeah, here's me like pursuing a job and stuff. I should probably just be watching more movies.
Well, that's the other thing too, is that Schmodown, it just gives you this whole other way. It's just, there might have been at some point some sort of shame about how much we're into movies or whatever. Then, Paul and I meet and we go, okay, this is okay. There's another person like that.
Right.
But and then you sort of normalize the way we watch movies in our lives. But then when you meet the Schmodown, you're like, oh, no. The way I thought life should be and how much I should be obsessed with movies is okay with all these people.
In this place, it is. Exactly. Well, what is the film that for you guys was like the seminal film that turned you into that you knew you were different? Like you mentioned Adam earlier, like there's you just sensed that you were different because you spoke about movies in a different way at a young age. Was there one movie that you were like, holy, why is no one else feeling about this movie the way I do? And it kind of changed you and made you realize you were different than everybody else. Was there one movie that did that?
May I, Adam?
Oh, please, Paul.
Yeah, please. La La Land. Wait, there it is. Oh, fair.
By the way, I have a very cute story to tell about the first movie Paul and I ever saw together. Like I said, we were brought together by Harrison Ford at this theater, which I made sure to laugh loud enough to everybody to go, no, that was a funny joke. Nobody caught that reference, but that was a funny joke.
You were leading the audience. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like Harold Ramis used to say about the guy that would laugh extra loud at Shakespeare's jokes to make sure you knew that he got it. But anyway. But so we decided we're going to go see all that summer's movies because we love our summer movies.
Right,
And so we're going to see a Spielberg movie. We're going to see Lost World. And we realized as we're entering, and I remember this very distinctly, they open the door and we're all starting to flow in. And Paul basically says, before we head in, is like, I haven't asked you, what's your favorite movie? And I was like, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And he's like, me too. And then we went into the movie. That was such a good movie bonding moment. I'm like, same favorite movie.
Of course, what's your favorite movie of all time is always asked with the caveat that besides Star Wars.
Star Wars. Amongst our crew,
yeah. Right.
Besides Star Wars.
Of course.
But Raiders and Star Wars have battled for number one my entire life. It's been, yeah. They'll go back and forth.
New Hope or Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah, New Hope. It's always a New Hope, right? It's always a New Hope, yeah.
Okay.
But and I'll read the old George Lucas biography. I forget that guy that wrote that one, but I've read that 100 times. And
right.
they did another really good Lucas biography like 5 years ago. I read that and I was like, no, Star Wars is back up there. I watched THX 1138 and I'm like, sorry Raiders, you got to go to second again. I mean, I watched THX, which puts Star Wars at the top just because of my love of Lucas.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And there's something about time spent with something. You ask me what my favorite movie is right now. Because I did love La La Land. I loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But something about time with the movie means everything. So Raiders, nothing's going to unseat it, even if there's something better. It's just not going to beat that movie I see every year for 40 years. And here in LA, I can see it outdoors or in a theater. I get to see it once on a big screen every year living here, and that's why I don't.
Dude, I don't miss much about since we moved last year, but that I miss. As a movie fan, being able to go see it on a screen at the Ampass or being outdoors or going to a rooftop theater like you do on Sunset or going to see it at the Egyptian or going to see it at New Beverly or what's the one in Santa Monica?
Arrow.
The Arrow. Yeah, going to see it there. Those are, I saw Lawrence Array for the first time in 4K at the Arrow, and it was great. And one of my closet favorite films is Chariots of Fire. And they were showing it there, a new print, and I went to go, and I was like, I'm going to be one of 10 people. The whole fucking place was sold out, and I'm like, this is my people, this is my space. The
film that beat Raiders of the Lost Ark for best picture.
It did, come out, and rightfully so.
Oh my gosh, he's gone dark, folks.
No, but I was on your network. I was on your network doing some show when you chimed in from your car, coming up here to see Nobody. It's like, but that's right. The kind of movie guy you are. You're like, I will drive 3 hours because Nobody is playing, and I have no other chance to see it.
It was worth it. It was a damn good movie. It was a damn good movie. Yeah, I just drove up for Black Widow as well. But yeah, the 5-hour drive now. Listen, I don't know. People think the pandemic is over, so the traffic is all back, and I'm just not going to be doing that on multiple situations. I'll just wait for the film to come out and just do the review that day because it's just too much to ask.
Let's play a little game. What film would get John Rocha to drive back up here? No Time to Die?
Yeah, probably.
At the impasse? Yeah.
No Time to Die.
Ghostbusters Afterlife?
No, hell no. No.
Ooh, okay.
But Top Gun Maverick would.
Yeah,
I absolutely. If they're not doing screenings down here, and by the way, gentlemen, they do screenings down here. If they're not doing screenings in LA, then in San Diego, then yes, those are the two movies. And probably Eternals, I guess. But I'm sure they're going to do an Eternal screening.
Shang-Chi?
No, I think I could wait for Shang-Chi.
Jungle Cruise?
No. As much as I'm looking forward to that, and what Jesse Plemons is going to do to that German accent, I would not be driving up for that one. But
is that what that was? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that was. I just got an invite for Snake Eyes, and I turned it down because I'm like, I'm not driving up for Snake Eyes. No offense, I'm not driving up. That's a bit much for me.
I went way out of my way to watch the first two G.I. Joes. I mean, Snake Eyes. This one looks like it's good.
Retaliation.
I mean, again, Paula said, they made another G.I. Joe movie. Like, I am so excited. Like, it's not going to be good, but
I love how they didn't veer from the X-Men title. It's Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins. I'm like, okay. I thought maybe it might go a different route because that was the least of the X-Men movies, but no.
Yeah. It's weird, some of the thinking of these. And have you guys, your show has been really incredible for so many years. It's been fantastic to see some of the guests you guys have been able to bring into your garage there, Paul, and into other places to interview. Have you ever spoken to an executive who talks about how they title these movies or how their approach is in these rooms and how they go around doing this?
Why does so many have to be Annihilation or whatever? There's like another one was announced that was like, Annihilation or Origins. I'm like, guys, that is like 4 movies now. Annihilation, there's got to be another thing you can call it.
Now, more often, Adam or I would play the executive and we'd interview them. We'd do
a skit.
Yeah, or we'd be the directors of the worst movies of all time or something.
Yeah.
Alan Smithies.
But I will be playing Roger Spottiswoode.
Wouldn't you just have a lot of criticism, though? Like, I don't know if I could interview them because I feel like I would just be like skirting the big questions. I don't know if I could nail them to the wall and they'd be. And they'll be like, no more guests for that show from my entire slate for 2022.
I've always found that it's good to be interactive when you're going to ask about an uncomfortable scene. I've discovered that through trial and error in interviews. Like, it's good to be interactive, being like, so what was the process for you as it was going along? Like, what stood out to you? What were you thinking? And then when you got to the final title, were you happy with it? You were set, or did anything hold you back? That way you give them space to be able to talk about all different sides of it. That's what I've usually done, especially when I interviewed Stallone about Rambo. It was a little bit like, because people were so mad about that movie being a MAGA film, supposedly. I was like, well, how do I kind of bring this up without bringing it up? And so it's just, it's really a tightrope sometimes with certain people. So I hear what you're saying.
That's the one with the evil Mexicans. Yeah, it's a little MAGA, I suppose.
Come on. Like, the cartels are all of a sudden an issue. Like, this has been going on. Somebody tell Narcos. Somebody tell Narcos, for God's sake.
Could have been Russians hiding out in Mexico that took his daughter. The point is, his daughter has been kidnapped. It doesn't have to. The race elements doesn't even matter. Why do they even go there? Make it the Russians down there again.
We go to Tijuana.
We hide out. We wait for Mr. Rambo.
We wait for the love boat. What
make fun of Russians all day.
Of course. Why not? Here. What was informative in the 80s, though, as both of you were getting older, past Raiders of the Lost Ark, were there other films that kind of opened the door in your mind, says what Adam kind of jokingly called out earlier, this idea of the critic mentality? Like, there were films that actually were masterpieces in your mind, actually were films that took the genre or the medium of film to the next level and kind of showed you that, yes, you would have a lifelong obsession for films and could create space to appreciate the real auteurs. And Lucas is an auteur, right? And so is Spielberg, obviously. But the other auteurs that were there films like that as you guys in your formative years?
I have an immediate thought on this. I don't know if you have one, Paul. But because obviously George Lucas and Steven Spielberg got us started, because I don't think the generation before us as much was like, oh, who directed that? But like Star Wars and Close Encounters and Raiders and then you're like, well, I love this guy named George Lucas, whatever he does. But then you're like, but then he didn't direct Empire Strikes Back. But then wait a second, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg made my favorite movie, and he's the guy from Close. So you're really like, I'm studying filmmakers. But I was confused for a long time, like, what does a director do? I'm sure, Paul, you asked yourself that question when you're formative and learning as well. And I remember it being announced that Tim Burton was directing the Batman movie, and my favorite thing ever has always been live action superhero movies. I mean, Christopher Reeve and Superman the movie is one of the most perfect things that exists on Earth.
Truth.
So I'm like, oh my God, a live action Batman movie. And I'm like, from the director of Pee-wee's Big Adventure? And so I was like, now I really don't know what movies are. And then Beetlejuice was opening. So that was announced before Beetlejuice. So I go, I'm going into Beetlejuice to find out what a director does. And there's no way to go into Beetlejuice and not come out going, I know what a director does. Yeah, Tim Burton definitely made that feel Tim Burton.
Oh, that's a good point. All right. What about
that
you,
was
Paul?
one of mine that I was like, I'm studying directors, you know?
That makes sense. Paul, what about you?
I recently interviewed David Del Rio of the Schmodown because he directed a film, and he had some great stuff to say about the film he directed. It's called Roadhead, if you want to see it out there. Nice. And he asked me, we were talking to each other about how we got involved in this. So it was the first time I really answered that question. I think it was because I just wanted to know who was responsible. Like, I think I'm pretty decent at the Schmodown because I would just like, I like this. Who did it? Who's responsible? Right. So credits, started reading credits. And then, I found out what the credits did, like, who did what. And then I follow fun ones like re-recording Mixer just cause. And then, but like, I wanted to know who to blame, in some cases as well. Right, but either way, that I would just follow. And so I think doing that, I became Kochev. I thought I was
Ted Kochev. You go over him? Oh my God!
But then I thought over time that kind of became my thing because. So if you looked at the movie Showcast, which was the Movie Guys show we did for about 200 episodes, the one in the garage with all the guests that you showed up on, we had a cool quartet because there was such variety there. Adam just announced it. He's the superhero guy. My friend Bart was all about Tom Cruise movies. Karen was dog movies and Bill Murray. And I think I kind of fell into that sort of awards fodder, or at least movies trying to get thetheir vein, because those are the movies I always wanted to find out what they're like. I kind of didn't miss anything during award season. I miss summer movies, but I try not to. But I have. But award season, I try and see it all. Yeah. So I think it was around then in the 80s when I started reading credits. I started finding out who was good, started following them, and that became my vein of gold.
Yeah. And then Premiere Magazine happened.
Premiere.
Yeah. 1987.
That was the thing. I agree. What was it, 87? Yeah. So that was around the time because all through high schools where I started to understand what films were on my end and started renting like stacks every weekend. I was like I said, I got beat up until I was 15 years old in high school. Like just from 9 to 15 was just constant beatings. And then at 15 is when I started lifting weights and things kind of turned around for me and nobody touched me anymore, but I still was the nerd, you know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't go out to parties, and I didn't even take a beer till I was in college, the first trip through college before I joined the military. And I would sit at home with my mom thought, and my dad thought I was weird, but I would sit up in my room and have stacks from Video World of those films to understand and get to know films and what it meant. And then Premiere was a way that you could get to know the current directors. You could get to know, the top 10 films ever, or the top 100 AFI films. Like, they'd talk about this, so they'd give you a blueprint of where to go overall. So, I mean, that was the time. I really believe that was the time. Now everything's so accessible, but back then you had to work at it. You had to get those, you had to go to the library sometimes and look stuff up on the fucking microfiche and find out all this kind of shit, and then go to the library and see or go to the video store and see if you could find it. It was cool times. Now
it was cool times, and it was hard to find movies. So you were joined with your friends in this journey of like, how do we find this? It's on VHS somewhere, but we only have 2 video stores in town. They only have so many movies, so you had to go out of town, or you go down to Cincinnati to like Half Price Books. We discovered once had like all the called videos, you know? And then we started building these walls of VHS that, you know, that look like PJs now, but mine got decimated because I moved more times than PJ, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I used to have that. Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
I have every premiere magazine there is in my garage.
Wow,
I have
really?
a garage.
Still?
Yeah, hung on to them. I like movies.
I want to do a podcast where we go through every issue. I think that'd be so much fun.
That's brilliant.
Then Entertainment Weekly came along, like this one with Harrison Ford on the cover and Indiana Jones. But anyway, just reading.
Why he's still hot. I like it. All right. Well, is there one director that you discovered that you liked, but no one else seems to be like as into that director as you are? Is there a director that you stand for, as the kids say nowadays, and like will defend that director no matter how much people come after that director, is whether current or in the past?
Someone who's unknown or someone everyone else kind of bags on?
I think someone else. I think someone who's known. You can say unknown if you want, but I mean, no one's. Are people going to have an opinion about a person they don't know? So is there one that you've had to defend liking?
Okay, so it's someone
pleasant conversation.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Or hate, or don't like, or don't respect, whatever. Yeah.
I've had to defend George Lucas.
It's true.
I mean, everybody knows him, but I mean, I have had, because I'm not
fair.
just a Star Wars fan. I'm a George Lucas fan,
Right.
and anybody that lays into George Lucas because of the Phantom Menace either hasn't studied Star Wars enough and certainly hasn't seen THX 1138 and American Graffiti. Because if I sat you down and go, hey, you like Stanley Kubrick, right? Yeah, watch this movie called THX 1138. I don't think at any point in that you would go, is this really a Kubrick movie? Right. Like, I think George Lucas, coming out of the gate, his very first movie, made an absolute Stanley Kubrick classic. Like, I mean, he made that movie, and then he made Breakfast Club on Wheels, and then he made Star Wars, you know? So it's like, oh my God, that's that 1, 2, 3 punch out of that. It's like, you could say whatever you want about Phantom Menace, but he owes you nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
And that's something I learned doing the Ford Fiesta, which you can find on Apple Podcasts or themovieguys.net or Stitcher or Google. Sorry. Sorry. Too aggressively.
It's the aggressive promotion podcast alarm.
Yeah, sorry, it'll go off when we get too heavy on that. But the point is, check the Ford Fiesta, because when I did the show, I learned something that I hope the audience would also learn, and that is just how insane a fighter George Lucas was. He had to fight everybody.
Yep.
The people who hired him, the people who were creatively with him, like Universal hired him and then had no faith in him for American Graffiti. Then, of course, what was it, 100 and whatever million off of $70,000, and then Academy Award nominations. Like, he just proved everybody a joke, you know?
Yeah.
But,
that's the other thing. He made the most profitable movie of all time, and then he made Star Wars.
Right. Great point. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, it's insane.
It's brilliant. And, you know, the thing is, sometimes people forget, or people, when they talk about the 70s, like, oh, that was the decade of the director. Yes, but the director it wasn't like studios were like, here, go do whatever you want. They had to fight for a lot of the things that they did. So in the end, yes, it was the decade of the director, but the director himself or herself was fighting to get what they needed to be able to bring about these masterpieces. We just did on the Cinephiles a deep dive into Coppola earlier this year. It was almost 2.5 months, I think, or 3 months of Coppola, and we just went through his stuff piece by piece, step by step. And one of the things that you come back to over and over again is how much he fought to cast certain actors in his masterpieces. And sometimes it worked. Most of the times it worked out. And then every once in a while it was a headache and a half, like Brando on Apocalypse Now. But he's always been a guy. Like, he fought for Brando on Godfather, Pacino on Godfather, these kinds of things. So the same thing on the other side with Lucas. So you got to respect that. They made you earn it. They made you fight for it, you know?
Yeah, and I've coined a term on the podcast called genius incest, because back then all those guys worked together, Milius and Spielberg and De Palma and Coppola and Lucas, and I wasn't aware even before the podcast how much they did until I started doing that research, and I knew they were all friends, and I knew they were all supported each other's stuff, but really the involvement was almost like stuff you don't see today much, except for maybe that like Ocean's 11 gang who kept making movies together years after that film.
It's kind of akin to the Schmodown in a way that all these guys, that was a career you did not aspire to at the time. Yeah. They were actually all these people that dared aspire to filmmaking. And a lot of them were like, Lucas was like, I'm going to do industrials the rest of my life, but it doesn't matter. I just don't want to do other jobs. I want to make movies no matter what they are. And then they met all these other people in this onrush, of all these people wanting to be filmmakers. And they were all there going, hey, all of us are here knowing we shouldn't aspire to be filmmakers, but Like now together we can, you know?
Yeah.
It's yeah.
That's a great point you bring up, Adam, because I've come to as I look back on it now, I've come to see them all as like the Beatles of filmmaking. And by that, I mean like, and I was recently listening to an interview with Paul about, because John Lennon's birthday just happened and he was talking about it. And he said, we had no aspirations. And Ringo Starr too was like, before we went to America, there was no real plan that we were going to be this global group. We just were like, we're going to see how long this lasts, but I'm going to go, work in the tailor shop, or I'm going to go like, they had no real aspirations. But once they got together and started working towards the things they were working toward, they elevated each other. And I think that's the crew. I think the same thing happened with these directors. When you're seeing what Coppola is doing, you're seeing what Milius is doing, or De Palma, or whatever, you're motivated by that to bring your best A game, to show you can hang. Competition naturally being bred amongst friends, and so so that makes a lot of sense, the way you say, like, that they aspired to more or fought to have more. It's really interesting, and that's why I love that decade. It's my favorite decade of film. It'll never be topped, in my opinion. I love so much of the 70s.
Yeah,
it's given that whole decade slice
Easy
away,
Riders, Raging Bulls era.
Yeah.
And side note, I've just heard about this because I think streaming services have the worst advertising. But apparently this week, McCartney 321. Have you heard of this 6-episode series? Rick Rubin interviews Paul McCartney. That's the show. Like, I can't wait to see this. It's
on Sirius XM. They've been promoting it all week. Wow, yeah, that's right. I forgot about it. I was thinking about it. I totally forgot about it. It's true.
Yeah.
But
I'll just answer your question about
please.
the director's thing, because I can't think of one right now, because I find myself like defending movies more than directors' bodies of work, because La La Land, for example, I think is a brilliant masterpiece, and so many people bag on it for being just this shallow thing. I'm like, you don't get it and you don't care to get it. And so I could defend Damien Chazelle, but I think most people would say they love Whiplash. I think a lot of people would say they like
I love Whiplash.
So it's tough to like, and every one of his movies wins an Oscar, so at least one, sometimes 6, like La La Land. But I find myself defending films often more than directors.
And that's that dumb backlash too. Is like the backlash in La La Land is because, I don't know, they're trying to say white people invented jazz. I don't know if that was what that movie's really trying to say, but like so people are like aggressively interpreting things. Like I do not know if that movie's necessarily saying that. Like I see your point, but like also it's like kind of an amazingly well made movie, and that's kind of what we were going into it for, to see if this movie was amazingly well made, and it was. So like you brought in some other thing, like this is the movie that sticks the flag in the ground for white people in jazz, right? And like I don't know if that's on the poster. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I have my criticisms of that film. I'll die on the first man hill, that's for sure, because I think that film was criminally underappreciated and criminally under rewarded for what it. I watched it again about a week ago on the 4K, and it's a goddamn gorgeous movie, and I love that it is a quiet film. Gosling doing a very even more restrained than Drive. It's incredible, and Claire Foy is just a firebrand through the whole movie. And I'm just and Corey Stoll being an asshole Buzz Aldrin, like you don't get that. You don't get that kind of honesty in space movies. So I just love the hell out of that thing. And people.
And Damien Chazelle clearly proving he can bring what the material needs to the material instead of bringing what he has, his pizzazz or whatever. He just does what the story needs. And I'll tell you something.
That's a good way to put it.
Secondly, a second way that movie drove itself home for me was going to the NASA show at the Hollywood Bowl, which Adam had a hand in doing some of the video editing for the show, where they showed clips of the movies and the live orchestra accompanied the moon landing sequence from First Man. And that score is the bomb, man. That was a great watching that there with like the real stars above the bowl. It was just awesome.
Apollo 13 live score. Oh my God. Yeah, that was a great show.
There are seminal moments that you remember in a movie theater, right? And they happen at all the different stages of your life. I will say that moon landing in IMAX at the screening, where the sound just goes away, and it was the first time ever I was like, maybe Kubrick did direct the moon landing. I don't know if it's this is possible. My God,
seen that in the theater,
dude, my girlfriend, this was right before she stopped going to see screenings with me. Happy Time Murders killed it for that. But like, this is the one she went to see, and we were sitting there, and we both just kind of like just sank into our seats in awe of what he was able to do with that sequence. You know, it's gorgeous. Jesus Christ.
I mean, there's a lot of pressure. You're making a movie about the moon landing, like, you know, that's the trench run. Like, that's the one where you pay a lot of it, you know.
Yeah.
That's the rest of it, you know, you can have some fun and leeway with, but when you're dealing with the moon landing.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody ever it's hard to internalize landing on the moon, but that movie really puts you of like,
yes.
you know, here's what happened. Here's how hard this is. I know you knew it was hard. I know you knew it was impossible. And I know you knew that they could die at any moment. But here it is, like, also, you know.
I think that's why maybe people, sorry, Paul. I think that's why people didn't, it feels like it stripped it of like the Hidden Figures approach or the more the rah-rah approach. This is actually this is as close to a documentary without it being a documentary as you're going to get. Yeah. Sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say maybe Damien Chazelle is my directorial answer after all.
Okay.
The more you guys talk, the more I can hear people bagging on First Man. It's like, no, I'll defend that. I'll defend La La Land. Whiplash, we may agree on, but if you don't, I'll defend that too. So maybe that's my guy.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Mine is Malick. I still defend him now.
Oh, I defend all kinds of Malick. Yeah.
I love his stream of consciousness movies. I go into those. No, normally I'll go into something if it's 3 hours long. That's too fucking long, and it feels it. With him, I know what I'm going in for. So I'm sitting back with a tub of popcorn and a large Coke, and I know, just take me out into the water, son, and leave me floating for 3 hours. I'm not gonna try to tell you what the hell the movie's about. I'm just gonna enjoy where you're taking me. And I don't think enough people appreciate what he does with his films.
Whoever I was watching Tree of Life with, I'm like, he's losing him. Like, I'm in. I'm getting way in. I'm like, no, guys, this is. The feelings you're feeling, the reason you're tuning out, that's on purpose. So now love that part because you got an hour and a half left.
I would comment on Tree of Life, but whenever I watched it, it's still ending, wherever that is. So.
Oh, very funny. Oh, I see.
Somewhere Tree of Life is still ending.
Still ending. And so is Return of the King. That's another story.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, Knight of Cups. I mean, To the Wonder, I will defend those movies. I mean, Knight of Cups was fucking great for me. I just was having a great. I
haven't seen his last few. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
I have this one friend, and the only time we go see a movie together is a Malick film. We'll sit one seat apart. So we're like, there's a sense of camaraderie. He doesn't talk much, but there's a sense of camaraderie that we're appreciating this together. And maybe we'll have a drink for about 20 minutes afterwards, and then we won't see each other again until the next Malick movie. It's fantastic. I love it.
You know, if there's a movie, I've always said, if there's a movie, even if there's a movie that I'm like, oh, I don't like that, but so-and-so does like that, then see that with them.
Yes.
Like if it is a mystery of what you don't like about Malick, find someone who likes that movie and watch it with them. Because you feed off of that. Like, you know,
It's a good way to appreciate. You're right. Very good point, Adam. We have an aggressive podcast promotional. Is that what this is? What's going on here?
Well, that was supposed to go with the alarm.
Whoa.
There it is.
Well, you mentioned going on a Francis Ford Coppola deep dive. Did you get to the conversation as heard recently on the Ford Fiesta podcast, the podcast that covers every Harrison Ford movie in a row?
If the camera you can find that on Amazon Music. You can download it from Pandora and Spotify and Podbean, Apple Podcasts, themovieguys.net, everywhere that podcasts are gettable. We can give it there.
So what do you think of the conversation?
Yeah, we'll get to Harrison Ford in a second. Oh, if the camera was long enough, I'd go crawl into the corner and show you what I thought of conversation. I love the conversation. Are you kidding? People don't talk about that movie enough. And it came out the same year as Godfather Part 2, and that's why, unfortunately, because that film is stellar, and it still works, and it's still topical today for what it brings up in this idea of monitoring people. I mean, The Lives of Others was kind of a sister to that movie. You could sense if you've seen that German film, and it's just like you get that idea of being monitored, seen. I mean, you got Tucker Carlson the other night saying we need to put cameras in teachers' classrooms to make sure they're not teaching critical race theory. So this idea of monitoring,
going to put cameras in there to make sure this doesn't turn into an Orwellian society.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's that kind of madness. People are always against surveillance until they want surveillance for something else, and it'll never go away because I think we are naturally, intrinsically, an untrusting species, and so we want to have that access to it, but we don't understand the consequences of implementing that kind of action, and watching the conversation shows you the consequences.
Well, and also, I mean, just when you have a character, I mean, forgetting all the politics of it, the character, you know, and you see movies that don't do this and gets really frustrating. You know, like a character has a thing he does, like in this one, he watches other people's lives. Yeah. It's going to have an effect on the character, and the depth of that character is entirely based on the fact that he is very suspicious about other people wanting to know stuff about him because he spent his entire life knowing things that other people don't know he knows about them. And you're like, wind up a character with those dual motivations and just let it go and just watch his life fall apart. That's that movie. It's crazy.
And Bogomil is fantastic in that movie. People don't give Bogomil enough love for, and that's the character from Beverly Hills Cop 2. He's his friend.
Bogomil
He's his friend.
Ronnie Cox?
No. I thought the other guy's name is Bogomil. My bad. What's the name of?
Oh, you're right. Bogomil is the Ronnie Cox of Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yeah.
No, it's fake John Ashton. Is that what you're saying?
Is that who that is? Yeah. And one who's like, the guy that was the bad guy for the cops in Beverly Hills Cop 2. He's the guy who's friends with Gene Hackman in the conversation and talking to him and like setting him straight about a bunch of things. He's the one that he screws him. Yeah. He screws him in the long run.
Yeah. What an interesting character. I called him the Justin Hammer of surveillance in that movie. He seems like the Justin Hammer. You're like, okay, Harry Call, Gene Hackman, like he's understanding the value of this, that you don't take this power and use it in a bad way. But the other guy's like, hey, who wants pens that got microphones in them? I got one on you. I heard your conversation. You're like, oh my God, you're the worst version.
Yeah, well, there's something else I learned or I've enjoyed about doing the Ford Fiesta because, you talk about getting into movies in the 80s. Well, then I want to see all movies. What movies are there? The ones from the 70s. Well, I'm 15 or 12 or whatever. And so Network, Chinatown,
they're
all going over my head. So revisiting them all now, like the conversation, is great because a new approach to that as an adult, was worth doing, man. That movie's great.
Yeah, I love. That's what I would say on this. This is why I enjoy doing the Cinephiles. We're into our 5th year of doing that damn show, which is crazy. Oh,
okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah,
take it easy.
Wherever you download podcasts, the Cinephiles is available for you all. Me and my director friend Steve Morris breaking down a film. We're in this week. We'll do the 3rd part of Die Hard. We have taken. We're gonna have to do.
You made it sound like a Shakespeare play. The Die Hard Part 3, Act 1.
The one where McClane teams with Falstaff.
Yeah,
the third part. A third part with an E on it. The word "part" has an E on it.
We've heard the chimes at midnight, Master McLean. Yes, exactly. That's what we've got there going on. I was actually watching that the other night.
I think we need to adapt that into a Shakespeare play. I think the adaptation of Die Hard would be pretty good. Die Hard 3.
I would like it. But yeah, we're going to spend, when it's done, we're going to spend 6 hours on that damn movie. It's insane. Let's get some Streamlabs super chats here. Chris Taylor says, as movie critics / reviewers, do you think YouTube will still be the site to post your content in the next few years? Gentlemen?
I mean, probably not, but will I? Probably. I mean, because I'm already not on Snapchat, and TikTok, and Twitch, and all the other crap, so I can't keep up. I'd like to say I'm on the one that's after these already, but I'm not.
I think I would say, looking at the views the movie guys have gotten over the years, the numbers of that, it's probably not the site to post our content to right now.
I once asked Adam, hey, everyone's on Twitch. What's the secret to Twitch? What's the real secret to being on Twitch? And Adam said, B20.
Yeah, it helps.
Broadcast at least 4 days a week and be 20.
Yeah, I'm discovering that. I did that a week ago. I became affiliate. I broadcast 5-6 days straight to become affiliate, and now I'm like, all right, what do I do with this now? So it's like, great, I accomplished one goal. What do I do with what I just did? So yeah, you got to. I'm not 25 years old. I can't come up with a dance.
You got to simulcast right here and Twitch. Otherwise, that's
what I've heard.
Time in the month, yeah.
It's expensive though. Simulcast is like an extra $250 to be able to do it at multiple places. It's not cheap, Liz. Joe.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
Are we live on Instagram right now?
No, you're live on YouTube. Just YouTube.
Okay. I just see the Instagram logos in the thing.
Oh,
but going back to that last question though, this is a good thing to discuss with you because at one time there were 2 critics, as far as I could tell.
Mm-hmm.
There was Siskel and Ebert, and they're like, oh yeah, there's other ones that write books. I don't read those. There's ones that report for the New York Times. I don't get that, but I do see Siskel and Ebert every week. But even like in the entirety of looking at a poster in the 70s or 80s, there was 10 critics. There was 10 critics, and 6 of them were on TV in some form. One would show up on Entertainment Tonight. So now, when criticism became democratized, I thought, this is, because I think we all hated, with the exception of Siskel and Ebert, who we also hated sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
We really hated the opinions of a Rex Reed. What is the use of a Rex Reed on Earth? I don't want the man to pass away, but if something could happen that hurt to him, that would be good.
Wow.
No. But, no, is he still alive? I hope he's not dead.
He is still alive, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Anyway. Gene Shalit, not still alive, though. You don't come for Gene Shalit.
I'm not going to come for Gene Shalit.
It was great. I love Gene Shalit.
Look for negative reviews of Black Widow. You'll find Rex Reed, probably.
Yeah, exactly, right?
He's 2 years old, still alive, so just letting you know. Sorry, Adam, go ahead.
So right as criticism got democratized, Phantom Menace came out, and the level for what was considered criticism, went below the basement. Yeah. Like, you're like, I don't like the Phantom Menace. Oh, you have a really interesting opinion on movies. It just became like a shortcut. I was like, wait a second, criticism just went down the tubes. And now I think, some of the people we know and stuff are really good critics. It's coming up, but I don't know if they get a lot of, I think like Bibiani's a great critic.
Yeah,
but
so McWeeny.
Yeah, McWeeney's a great critic. And, but there's no national, I have McWeeny on my TV, but I don't,
We don't have it anymore because Siskel and Ebert was an anomaly. They were like that time, Gene Shalit, Siskel Ebert, Rex Reed, those are the people you saw. They were anomalies. And they, I'm watching the Ronan Farrow thing on HBO Max about Weinstein. And
it's so hard to put on at the end of the night. I want to watch it, but I'm like, I could watch this or...
No.
Yeah, exactly.
This or Three's Company on Nick at Night.
Right, I know. This or see what dumb movies playing on Pluto,
That's true. But you're seeing these writers, and I'm listening to this guy from the New Yorker from the 90s, and he's talking now, obviously, and I'm like, this guy has a great presence, a great voice. It's the rarity now. And now critics, they're out there, and you can see, but no one has that thing, that personality that they had, I'm a member of the HCA, but I don't consider myself a critic like those guys, like Reed or any of those guys, or Siskel and even McWeeny or Bibiani, because their turn of a phrase is incredible when you're reading them. McWeeny and Bibiani both teach me how to look at films. Yeah,
they'll teach you how to look at films. Yeah.
And I
always an amazing angle taken with those guys. I'm like, I hadn't even thought. I love that movie. I wouldn't think a criticism could. Yeah, but that's what Siskel and Ebert did too.
Right. This is why I went through such a mental struggle for the last year, putting up reviews on my channel, because I was like, I would record reviews, multiple takes, and then just scrap it, because I'm like, none of this matches up to what I'm used to watching with Siskel and Ebert. Why am I even doing it? So it was a crisis of confidence for over a year. I've only now just been like, well, fuck it, I'm going to put it out there and see what happens and learn as I'm going along. But when you grow up in that generation, it's tough, because those are the people you look to as the actual critics, as the real Pauline Kael. I used to read Pauline Kael when I was in high school. I would check out her books from the library, read her reviews of movies to give me an idea. Or A.O. Scott. I used to read A.O. Scott all the time. And then things change over. Yeah.
The first thought you had about recording and then deleting your reviews 3 or 4 times. There's about 40,000 people on YouTube who I wish shared your mentality. It's saturated, is my point.
Yeah, it is.
It might be time to leave YouTube just because it's too much. There's like, we can get buried in there and not be found,
By the way, also talking about those rare critics of back in the day, and a lot of those, I never read Pauline Kael. I think I've checked the book out of the library. I think I started reading one once because I'm like, well, a good movie fan reads Pauline Kael. I still haven't read a Pauline Kael book. But we were doing the Ford Fiesta podcast, available at themovieguys.net and anywhere where you get your podcasts, in which we run down every single. That's the aggressive podcast promotion. But I was putting together a script.
I'm catching on.
Yeah, thank you. Good time. Nice.
The first one didn't go so well, but they've been cool.
I'm a late bloomer. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, that was perfect. But we talked about the movie Heroes with Henry Winkler.
Oh yeah, the wrestling Field. One. Yes.
No, not the wrestling one.
What's
no?
That one?
Oh, is that? Headlock or Full Nelson or
no, Full Nelson's Dirk Benedict, isn't it?
That's Dirk
Body
Benedict,
Slam.
All the Marbles.
Hold on.
Body Slam.
You keep talking. It was my fault.
The old wrestling movies back when they really didn't make many wrestling movies, like
that was
a
the one with him and
picture.
Kim Darby, but I can't remember. Go
Wow.
ahead. Sorry,
okay, yeah. But Henry Winkler's in a movie called Heroes. Came out in 1977, the same year as Star Wars and Smoking the Bandit, with Harrison Ford and Sally Field.
Yeah.
I'm putting together a script, and it was a few weeks after we watched the movie, so it's like I'm trying to write down the plot of it. And so I look, and on Rotten Tomatoes, you can find any of the old reviews, print ads scanned. And I never knew who Charles Champlin was. I was just confused. I'm like, that's a weird name. If your name's Charles Champlin and you're dealing with Hollywood stuff, change your name. It's Charles Chaplin. I'm going to confuse that constantly. I can't believe the depth he went into on the movie Heroes, Paul. I didn't discuss this with you yet, Paul. But talk about a guy. I mean, Heroes is basically a throwaway movie. It's significant for a few reasons, which we cover on the show.
The Vietnam aspect to it,
The Vietnam, it was one of the very first movies. I mean, I think they said the very first movie to reference Vietnam, at least as a syndrome, as something that can, PTSD, is Taxi Driver. Now, I don't really remember that being as much of a thing, but this is about a veteran with PTSD.
Right.
And, I mean, there's a level on which it's a really amazingly brave movie and stuff. It also is not very well directed, I don't think. He goes into so much. I mean, kind of a throwaway movie in a weird way now, certainly now. But he goes, I mean, it's a gigantic review. You would think it is the review of Lawrence of Arabia or something. Like, that guy loves movies enough to devote 1,500 words to Heroes, in a movie that is going to be forgotten, certainly by now,
Wow.
Charles Champlin. And I'd never read anything from him. And I'm like, this guy's taking this movie so seriously. I love it,
Those are the good ones, man. Who really kind of can lay it down and keep your attention as they're going through this stuff, for sure. Royko said it. Yeah, the one and only. That's what it was called. The one. I remember watching that as a kid. That's the one. Him and Kim Darby. That
was an HBO staple. Yeah.
Yes. HBO staple.
Yeah. He was an out-of-work actor who becomes a professional wrestler. And it basically was a version of Ric Flair as Ric Flair was becoming famous. So with Henry Winkler as the Ric Flair type character. Yeah. And he was a heel with a German helmet who wore the old school German helmet that he used, the spike and stuff. So it was great. Very funny film.
The Kaiser helmet, which I've told Kaiser in my promos he should wear in the Schmodown.
Absolutely. I'm getting him a Kaiser helmet.
Is there one big enough to fit over his massive ego and head? Just joking. But
coming up next after Six Pack.
between Savannah Smiles and Chomps. Don't miss.
And then later, don't tune in to Savannah Smiles.
Oh, Heavenly Dog, tonight at 8 after Heroes with Henry Winkler.
Don't forget Saturday, the Battle of the Network Stars. Malcolm or Alan Smithy says, "Hey, Paul, Adam, and Rocha, great to see you all. So, what is the second best Indiana Jones movie? Oh God! And what is your favorite Harrison Ford movie outside of Indiana Jones?" I think, and I'll include Star Wars in that. outside of Indiana Jones and Star Wars.
And Star Wars, yes.
I think Witness, that's the answer. I think Witness is a fantastic movie. Rock on movie, guys. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Great question. This is great.
Wait, two of them there. What was the first one again?
What's your second favorite Harrison Ford movie? And what is the second best Indiana Jones movie?
Right.
What's the second best? Big debate recently about the second best.
There's no debate.
Skull.
Well, PJ and Kalinowski and Gilmore were going at it over Crystal Skull versus Temple of Doom
as the second
best, as third best, I guess.
Because we all agree The Last Crusade is the second best. The real question is third best, right?
We all agree on that. I put Crusade over Raiders. I'm sorry, gentlemen.
What?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So is Steve Lewis, the movie guy Steve Lewis.
You like goofy shit?
Come
on. This
I don't like a white man taking tokens from a civilization and running off into a helicopter. Excuse me.
Don't know if that's how movie's
Crusade
about.
opens.
White guys with jazz. We know what this is all about. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah. So, no, I think my issues, and we did Raiders on Cinephiles last year. My issue with the Raiders comes down to the Marion Ravenwood situation. Like, you introduce her as this hard.
You mean come on. Like, that whole movie's about that. That movie about molestation? No, it's not even about that. That is a
molestation.
Reference to that movie.
I know. I'm not saying that. Let me finish. I was saying that I think they introduce her as this hard drinking badass woman, And then they turn her into a damsel in distress for the rest of the movie. And that frustrates the hell out of me. Man.
She's tied up. You can't move when you're tied up.
No, but that's in the script. That's what I'm saying. Don't put that in the script. Let her fight.
She uses her hard drinking skills to get away from Bullock. It doesn't work, but she directly.
Oh yeah, that's right. Wait a second, Rocha. You're leaving out the fact that she uses that hard drinking thing to get out of that.
She does, to get out of her situation. Is she climbing Harrison Ford with the snakes? She should be fighting them off. She's a badass.
I don't like snakes. Scare her. I don't like snakes.
He doesn't like snakes.
Yeah, but
he cries more than she does.
Well, he cries.
I could bench press Rocha, and I don't like snakes.
Well, good for you, man. You up to 250 now? Congratulations.
I have the strength of 10 men, but I don't like snakes.
It's bad opinion alert.
Oh no! Wrong one.
No, wrong one.
No, I love. I love Crusade because of the relationship between him and Connery. It's just touching. And
well, that's the thing. That's the deeper relationship than happens in Raiders, which is not trying to be what that movie's trying to be.
Right.
Yeah.
And Allison Duty. I mean, what are you going to say? Oh, there it is.
Find out
Mutt Lang. You want to give me Mutt? Oh boy.
I love Shia LaBeouf.
Would you say
it's going to age well that he's in that movie?
Adam, I hope so. Crusade over Temple of Doom.
Yes. Oh, Temple of Doom? Fuck yes. I don't like Temple of Doom. I might even put Temple of Doom below Crystal Skull. I'm not even joking. Oh, I can't with that movie. I have a hard time with that movie.
It's tough because I still watch Crystal Skull. It's an Indiana Jones movie. Of course I still watch Crystal Skull. Yeah. And it gets better every time. And there's a lot of stuff that's overlooked in that movie. Number one, I think people, it's weirdly enough, people go into an Indiana Jones movie, as of Crystal Skull, and watch that movie without ever thinking of Harrison Ford in a weird way. Because his performance is quite good.
Yes, it is.
If you just watch Harrison Ford, if you're like, I'm just into whatever this next Harrison Ford movie is. All right, it could be Age of Adeline or Crystal Skull. I'm going to watch Crystal Skull. I just want Harrison Ford. And you're just watching Harrison Ford. You're like, he's kind of killing it in this movie. Really kind of killing it in this movie. He might be a better actor performance in that movie than Temple of Doom. I would give that. Yeah.
I would agree with you. I think that's the problem. And I think that's why people forget about him because they're focused on how this is like one of the rare bad performances from Cate Blanchett. How Shia LaBeouf is really kind of a weird addition to the whole thing. Ray Winstone is not a replacement for what's his name, the John Rhys Davies character. Sallah. Yeah, he's not a replacement for Sallah in any way, shape, or form. So it kind of
look at that cast they put in that movie.
It's a great cast.
Man,
there are plenty of movies with good casts.
I mean, in fact, I think we'd have to say hands down that is the best cast of any Indiana Jones movie, right? I mean, that cast is incredible. You may not like what they do with Ray Winstone, but Ray Winstone is in an Indiana Jones movie,
right?
See, there's the thing I was telling you about. He loves that Ray Winstone's in the movie.
That's unequivocal good. And also, Cate Blanchett, that's one of her worst performances. I have a feeling she's stylizing that performance, all of you who are comparing it to Blue Jasmine.
I'm not comparing it to Blue Jasmine. I'm just telling you I didn't like her performance.
I know. I'm talking to the theoretical critic that floats above me all the time.
Here's the problem I have is that Temple of Doom is not great. It's stuck in the 80s. But the bridge sequence that is the finale of that movie is better than pretty much every sequence in the rest of the trilogy outside of Raiders.
You'll get no argument from me on that. That bridge sequence is incredible.
So it's tough to discount the entire movie. That's a really hard. I mean, but then I think Harrison Ford pretending to be Scottish to get into a castle is like the worst scene in the three movies.
And I concur.
Film, but comparing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. Anybody that tries to sink a whole film that has built up all this goodwill over one thing that happened, the swinging from the. I'm a Tarzan fan as a kid, so I was like, you know what? We're in pulp territory. You swing with those monkeys. I don't give a shit. Especially at that point in the movie, you're like, we have slowly gone nuts in this movie. Let's, by the time you get to Aliens, you're like, we've slowly gone nuts. I think we are here at this point.
Yeah,
like Alligator Loki. You're like, you know what? I buy it. You know what? I buy it.
And I can't follow that theory. To your point, Adam, because the monkey does Heil Hitler in Raiders, and I just let it go because there's a whole rest of a great movie around it.
There's a whole rest of a great movie, right? There is a Nazi monkey in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that is something that very few movies can say.
That's true. And you can teach the monkey to be a Nazi. Though.
Outside
second question, because we got that. So what is your favorite Harrison Ford movie outside of Indiana Jones and Star Wars?
By the way, question.
It's a great question. We're talking about this on the day of Harrison Ford's birthday. We're going to get into a conversation about him as well. I know we got about 15 minutes left in the show, but we'll get to it. All right, go ahead.
Look at that guy. Isn't he the best? This is the best thing about doing the Ford Fiesta podcast is it's just if we've forgotten to love Harrison Ford every day. And now, like, doing this show, you're like, I mean, even these dumb movies that we started, because we're only about 8 movies into his career, and they're movies that nobody knows. I mean, we just got to Star Wars and Force 10, you know, but it's just like
Navarro, right?
Yeah. But, and well, boy, talk about a Harrison Ford movie. If you like Harrison Ford and you haven't seen that, that is Harrison Ford AF, as the kids would say.
It's a good movie. I like that movie. Why don't we add another thing to this? What's your favorite movie outside of the Indiana Jones and Star Wars franchise? But also, what's your quietly favorite Harrison Ford movie that nobody talks about? Like, what's your jewel that nobody talks about enough of his films?
Okay.
Well, I mean, it was nominated for Best Picture, but I still think enough people don't talk about Working Girl as being one of the best comedies of the 80s.
Great point.
He's supporting in it, but man, that movie just has quotable lines. Most of them are from Alec Baldwin, but there's so many great lines in that movie. And you know, I think the plot's been stolen. The plot was stolen that same year from The Secret of My Success with Michael J. Fox. But it seems a little tread, but it's a great movie, and and it's Mike Nichols, you know, directing the shit out of it too. So.
Yeah. Well, because people focus on Melanie and focus on Sigourney, they don't focus on Harrison so much. It's that rare movie where the man is like the token character in the film as opposed to the woman.
He's the bimbo.
He's the bimbo. Exactly.
He's the bimbo.
He's the himbo.
Dunderhead.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think she does in fact sleep with him and leave him. You know, leave him in the morning to figure out where the hell she go and what's going on.
All right.
You're not going to upstage Sigourney.
No. Nobody can. Even as a computer voice, you can't do that.
I mean, the competition is fierce for outside of the Raiders and Star Wars franchises. What's the best Harrison Ford? But I think I gotta go The Fugitive.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, such a great film. It's such a underacted performance by Harrison Ford. You know, just he could nominate it for Best Actor, but he has probably 5 lines of dialogue. But it's everything that he feels. It lives on him that he's been wrongly accused and he's desperate, and it's great. And of course, it's the highlight of Andrew Davis's career. It's got that legendary train crash sequence, and if you don't know it, there's a great recap by John Mulaney in one of his stand-up specials about the finale.
Really?
Definitely look that up. Look that up. Yeah,
but
John Mulaney.
Yeah, fantastic. That probably edges out Witness maybe a little. Witness is so great because it is his Best Actor nomination, the only one he's got, and of course Blade Runner is a classic, but a little colder than I like. I think maybe I go Fugitive.
Okay, what do you got, Adam?
Yeah. So this is not the one. This is outside Indiana Jones and Han Solo. Yeah. What is our favorite? Because the one that nobody talks about, obviously. I hate to be boring, Paul, but twinsies. Here we are walking into the Lost World again, Fugitive, because that Harrison Ford's in our youth was like this big thing. He was in even Deckard and all that. It was like Harrison Ford, and then he lost us a little bit. Even though yes, I could appreciate Working Girl, but it wasn't really playing to me. Nor was Witness, nor was Mosquito Coast. I saw all these movies in the theater, but Mosquito Coast and so Harrison Ford started going for the prestige. He got his nominations, and we lost the Harrison Ford we had, and then suddenly we got him back, and we got him back. Patriot Games, Fugitive, and Clear and Present Danger all in a row, right? I got those 3 movies in a row, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and so I'm working at the movie theater in 1993. So every night, once you finished up, you would be at the scene in the tunnels with Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones. I didn't kill my wife. I don't care. Like the timing of cleaning up and finishing up the theater. So I walked in and I would sit there, and sometimes I would watch another hour of The Fugitive. Sometimes I'd just come in to watch that scene. Sometimes I would watch it all the way through to the credits. I was allowed because I was off work. So The Fugitive, the fact that there was such a return to form for Harrison Ford, as Harrison Ford phase 2 in a big way, that The Fugitive, man. And what just a perfectly made movie. Perfect timing for Tommy Lee Jones' career, the perfect cast of, Joe Pantoliano, welcome to the world. We've always known you're fun and cool and in movies, but now everybody knows Joe Pantoliano is awesome,
it made Tommy Lee, as you mentioned, it made him. Like, people knew Tommy Lee, but people didn't know him till this movie. Remember, he's a coal miner's daughter. He's in the Executioner song, but it's not till this film that people go, oh shit,
Distant Thunder.
Distant Thunder. Yes.
Rolling Thunder.
Rolling Thunder. Right, I remember.
Let me get my tools. Yeah, that's
and same thing with me, Adam. I worked in '94 at a video store, and so we had to play family friendly fare just on the screens, and it was like Fugitive's over. Let's play The Fugitive again. So that would be my day. Yeah.
I have to go with you three. Yeah, sorry, Adam. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I agree with you three. That's my favorite outside of those other two because
it's so Harrison Ford.
It's at him, and the age that he's at, he's playing that character. He's playing that guy. We're so used to him being the hero. This is a normal guy who becomes a hero just to avenge his wife's death, to avenge and to like get himself out of the situation. The shaking, the desire to be believed. It's all so bubbling under the surface the whole time. At times it comes out a little bit, but even the stuff in the building at the end where he's running around the stairs, he's running like an older dude. He's not running like a hero guy, and that makes you care about him more. Like Die Hard, right? This is Bruce Willis when he cared about movies. Like he is totally physically embodying a cop without shoes in this situation in a foreign building that he doesn't know. It's believable, the mistakes and the confusion and the running around and the franticness, just like it is for Harrison Ford in The Fugitive the whole time. And it gets crazier and crazier, that movie, as it goes on.
But you know what's interesting? It is a perfect Harrison Ford Phase 2 performance in that we've gone through Mosquito Coast. We've gone through Regarding Henry. We've gone through all the humanization. Like, he has absolutely shed the arms akimbo hero, right?
Yeah.
And so then you're wanting that guy all the way through The Fugitive, and you're starting to get it, and you're getting it, and you get these great hits of Harrison Ford being, the hero and righteous and all that stuff. So it's like, it's just perfect that he's a very different Harrison Ford, but it's like it scratches all the itches,
Yeah, and I agree with you. And my quietly favorite one is Presumed Innocent, that no one talks about. He is so stellar in that movie. That's a great twist. But he is he's not a guy you necessarily want to like. This isn't like Regarding Henry where they use a bullet to change the dude's personality. This guy is as a lawyer, and him and Raul Julia and Bonnie Bedelia are, or is it Ann Archer? I think it's Ann Archer.
I get those confused all the time.
They're incredible in this movie as it goes along. It's based on a Scott Turow novel, and how he kind of it's a quietly brilliant performance that I think people just forget about how good he's in that movie. So
never seen it.
Really?
Oh,
shit! Put it on the Ford Fiesta list.
There's so many Harrison Ford movies that I couldn't believe I hadn't seen. This is how we got the idea to have the podcast of
makes sense.
There's some serious holes in our Harrison Ford. So so some of these, I'm so excited to get to this movie that I've wanted to see forever, just somehow didn't see it.
And I was just going to reference that movie as a building block to The Fugitive because he played a hero and then Frantic, he kind of was a regular guy. And then by Presumed Innocent, he had to be the most sort of regular person. And then all that kind of led to combining it all with action and regular guy.
Yeah.
That's
a couple of years later.
Well, I mean, it's Kismet a perfect time to have you guys on the show tonight on Harrison Ford's birthday.
It's perfect
considering, you guys have Ford Fiesta. How did this show come about? And let's talk about why do you think Harrison Ford remains still such a firmament for so many people and men especially? What is it about him that makes him transcend generations? Even now, kids in their 20s are discovering Harrison Ford or falling in love with Harrison Ford and his performances all over again. Talk to me about how you created the podcast was the motivation, and then what your feelings are about Harrison Ford as a person and actor.
One of the funny things I think is that when you were on the movie Showcast, that was every week, different guest, new movies, because we just previewed that week's movies that were going to be in the theaters. So we wrote late night monologue type jokes about all the movies. Any sketches that we thought of, we would write those and play them out on the radio or on the mics. And then, we would do Karen's birthdays segment at the end. She would write and perform that.
A whole variety show.
There's a whole lot going on there.
I remember.
What's not going to be so hard? What can we do that's a little just easier? So we thought, that coupled with what Adam just said, there are some movies of his we haven't seen. He referenced Age of Adeline. Never seen it. Never seen Paranoia with Ford and Gary Oldman. They reteamed the Air Force One goodie and baddie and haven't seen it. So there's stuff alone, and most of these early movies we hadn't seen, and that was a trip.
That was what we didn't even think of. We knew there were holes recently, but as soon as we're like, all right, let's start from the beginning, we're like, well, I've never seen Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round. I know that's his first movie, but I've never seen it. What the hell is that movie? Who would call the movie that?
Yeah. So between let's watch them and maybe it won't be so hard. Of course, then we go and make it difficult for ourselves. We still do a recap of the movie by writing a bunch of jokes and taking a comic take on what the movie's about for the listener who may not know. Yeah. And then and now we're starting to have some guests on, so we'll have to have you come on when we hit your favorite. We'll have you on for what was the,
let me think about it. I like this idea. I would definitely love you hanging out with you guys. You know, I always have a good time on your show. So let me think about what would be the perfect one to do that with you guys. But go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
And so it's become complicated, but that only benefits the listener. I think it's a great listen for facts, fun, and all sorts of weird stuff we don't expect with every movie he's made. Now, why
we made it so much harder on ourselves.
Yeah. And why is he a legend? I mean, he remained, despite his, personally and in the movies, he remained an everyman. Mm-hmm. You know, he wasn't Schwarzenegger. He wasn't Stallone, who was larger than life. And even Roger Moore, like, you knew he was just going to tiptoe through the Bond movies, bullets bouncing off him, throwing quips. Ford, you didn't know. He had to work. He had to hang on to things while crap went haywire all around him to come out the other side okay. He wasn't just throwing jokes and jabs. So I think people grabbed onto that, and if they're rediscovering or discovering for the first time today, I think they still see that and appreciate that, especially when movies can be a little more shallow with their heroes today.
Fair.
You know what's interesting now? I don't want to make this panel feel old, but it's
my show. Fuck it. We're having fun.
Remember how long ago Cary Grant felt when we were watching Harrison Ford movies as a kid? Wow. That's Harrison Ford's age now to kids. Right, it's like, that classic actor, that Cary Grant, that that's where he is now. You know. Wow. So I think people that are discovering him are looking at like Raiders of the Lost Ark must feel like Casablanca to a kid right now. Like, that old movie, but that great old movie. You know, he's now. I mean, he's carved from movie stone. I mean, you see certain images, obviously the famous Marilyn Monroe and all this stuff. You're like, man, those people are carved from movie stone. There's something different about them. And you see Harrison Ford in that costume. We just, on the Ford Fiesta, we talk about the Ford News of the Week, which is a really fun thing for us to, Paul and I, to powwow about. They released that first picture of him in Indiana Jones 5, and you're like, there's such magic going on here. He's not doing anything, but he's dressed like Indiana Jones, and that is just magic, carved from movie marble,
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I always appreciated Adam's response to Christopher Reeve in the Superman outfit. He's just standing there, Superman outfit, cape lightly flowing, and Adam's like, "How does he do that? Oh, he's not doing anything."
Yeah, but look at that. Do that. Look at him. Look at
Harrison Ford does the same thing in this iconic outfit, right?
Yeah, but whereas Christopher Reeve was, you could never be that good looking. With Harrison, you sense that you could know him, like you could hang out with Harrison, like you could be friends with a guy like that. You'd be cool to be friends with a guy like that. With Reeve, there was that feeling, or Reeves rather, there was that feeling like, well, is he going to stick around or take my girlfriend? But with Harrison, it's not that vibe.
John Rocha problems.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. But yeah, I mean, and the thing is, and for all the criticism some people have of him, like when he's curmudgeon, like I remember, people post that GIF or that snippet all the time of Harrison saying to Frosty he doesn't care who shot first between Han and Greedo, which I think is hilarious. But he does send himself up. I mean, that was it Kimmel or Conan where Chewbacca's in the audience and he's like, he was my wife. She was my wife. And like that's he's able to make fun and make the jokes, which I truly appreciate about him overall. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what he is, because I don't think he has kids, does he? Do you think he has kids?
Oh yeah, he does.
Does he have kids?
Fact,
okay.
I just flew to New York for the first time since the pandemic started, and his son Ben is a famous chef of sorts. He's written a couple books, and he had a place in town called Ford's Filling Station, and it was an eatery that closed, but it's still open at LAX Terminal 5. And of course, I went right there and had a breakfast burrito that was just crazy good. And there's pictures of him cooking with his dad and holding a giant fish, and he's got this he's got this book about like what to do with like chicken, and it's like the dullest food in the world, but he finds ways to spice it up. So he's become quite a thing. And then he's got another kid from another marriage, I believe. So he has good kids.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
He's 78, so his kid's like 54 or something.
Right,
like,
right.
It's
is
not a
Ben
kid.
Ford
He's a kid.
or Ben Matheson? Which one is he? Is he
Ben Ford?
Okay,
Ben Ford. It's before Matheson. Yeah.
Okay.
We looked up and did some history. We have a very comprehensive Harrison Ford calendar because we do a this date in Ford history. But he moved to L.A. on the Harrison Ford podcast, the Ford Fiesta podcast, available on iTunes. But he moved to L.A. He was 20 already with a kid and married. He had to go find work. He had to, that's why carpentry happened, and he worked in a jewelry store. I think we was driving to a jewelry store he worked at when he cut his chin. He drove off of Mulholland and cut his chin. Tried to find that exact date that he got the scar on his chin for this date in Ford history, but that's very hard to find.
I bet. All right, so we got some more. Oh, we got some more stuff coming. So please send in your Streamlabs and Super Chats, ladies and gentlemen. We got about 35 minutes left with these two fine gentlemen. So if you want them to answer your questions, do it now. I promise we won't answer one as long as we just answered this one, but we wanted to bring in the tribute to Harrison.
Wind us up, let us go.
Yes, so I want you guys on the show. Malcolm said, I was curious about the parents/guardians that contribute to the greatness we are seeing on this screen. Who are they, and are they aliens? Did they support your passion for movies? Love you both. Yeah. What were your parents like when you were discovering films and being mad about films? Were they supportive of this, or were they saying, go out and work out, go out and lift some weights? What did they say?
Well, my parents, I was the last of four. So my parents were already sort of old and out of touch with whatever
baby.
The hell.
Of course you're the fucking baby, you son of a bitch. There we go. Yeah.
Thank you. So, I mean, I had an older brother 9 years older than me, and my oldest sister was 15 years older. So by the time stuff I liked came out, my parents didn't know what the hell it was, didn't know anything about it. There was a time, though, when my mom said to me, oh, you know more about this stuff than you know about social studies. That's accurate. Remains accurate. But they supported whatever I did. I went to acting school, and they were like, okay, just, I'm going to worry, but I'm not going to say no. So they were very supportive in that respect without being people I could look up to in the same field. They were modest teacher and housewife, but they supported me. So I was thankful for that.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Wish I could say it was Robert Preston was my dad or uncle or something. So from the Music Man, Victor Victoria, Robert Preston. But there's no whatever it is what is it called? Where you're related to everybody in Hollywood? Nepotism. No nepotism.
Oh, nepotism.
But supportive family. Yeah. Really nice.
Oh yeah. No opportunities for nepotism in my family for sure. I mean, I'm 3 generations from the hills of Kentucky. But if you want to hear a different story than Paul's, I'm an only child.
Oh.
And was extremely supported in all of my ventures, and would frequently wander off to my room for 5 unattended hours while I did, action figure theater and stories and wrote stories and all that sort of stuff. I was very encouraged to be an artist. My stepdad was an artist, actual, painter. And so, yeah. And mom had a great appreciation for that stuff. And mom had a great appreciation for media. Yeah. I mean, it's not a movie story, but it's a very particular story of them, which is when I finally got old enough that I could watch Saturday Night Live, they said, well, now you're old enough, we'll let you stay up on Saturday night, but you have to stay up after it to watch SCTV, which we consider to be a superior sketch comedy program. That's my parents.
I love it. Snobs about sketch comedy. That's
literally true.
And they were right. True. But anyway, yeah.
So when it came to movies, they were really great for telling me, because again, that question I had of what is a George Lucas? What is a Steven Spielberg? Why did these two things, and they would say, oh, these guys are directors. They, tell people, they say action and cut and all that. So, they would give me, they would tell me, because they were pretty studied in pop culture too. They were not that old when they had me. My mom is maybe 23 years older than me or something. So her pop culture is fairly recent, and people did, learn a lot more about filmmakers and stuff like that. So that was all really encouraged. And when it came time, they started saying, well, you have to start thinking of a career now. Yeah. And I was like, I do remember a conversation where I pointed at Harrison Ford as Han Solo. I was like, I want to do that. And they're like, act or make movies. Like there's two things going on in this thing that we know you like, but it was very encouraged. And because I had three sets of grandparents, a lot of Star Wars action figures at Christmas time as well.
That's great.
So that was all, I was very encouraged to study all this stuff.
And they're in my garage, and they were used for that Star Wars free-for-all, because still getting use out of those figures. And I should point out two more things, because despite what I said about my parents kind of being out of touch, my dad did say that it's a fun movie, it looks like a good time, an adventure movie we should go and see. And I know I went to the movies before Star Wars, but my dad taking me to Star Wars and seeing the destroyer go overhead like that changed my life. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, I was first generation American, so my parents they plopped me in front of a television so I wouldn't speak English with an accent, and so that's where I became addicted. And they had no idea they were turning me into an addict to TV and film, because I was watching
Rokabot.
Yeah, basically, because I was watching PBS at 10 years old. I was watching shit on British television, all this kind of shit. And my dad was like, "What is this? I don't understand." There's all kinds of stuff.
It's the goodies, Dad.
No, it isn't the Goonies. Fuck it. But we were
the goodies. The goodies.
Oh, the goodies. We were into The Godfather, though. That's where my dad and I connected, was The Godfather. That's when things kind of changed for us. We were able to connect. He always loved that movie. So when I got old enough to finally see that movie and understand it, as Paul says, some things go over your head if you're a certain age. I had to wait till I could get it. Then we did. We became. Then my dad and I went to movies all the fucking time, all the fucking time. It was nice.
Great. That's the day you became my son.
All right, now let's move on some more here. Tushka, hey Tushka, thank you very much. He says you have some outdoor theaters in the big San Diego, do we? Check out Cinema Under the Stars and Rooftop Cinema Club Embarcadero. Oh, okay. I'll take a look at that. Thank you, Tushka. I appreciate it. Still learning the city. Question for all: what film would you drive 5+ hours to watch again in the theaters? How about 10+ hours to go watch again in the theater? Ooh. That's a great question, Tushka.
What would I drive 10 hours to watch? What theatrical experience is so superior? And I would be reliving, because I remember when they re-released Star Wars, the special editions. Yeah, I was like, the idea of watching. I mean, I must have seen each of those 6 times, because I'm like, I'm literally never going to be able to do this again in my life, because the idea of just like you're saying, Paul, that Star Wars comes up and that ship, and I'm like, it works every single time. I mean, how is it? I watched Fletch for the 30th time, and I'm like, this is really all right. I'm done with Fletch, but Star Wars, it's like it never stops. Theatrical, 10 hours.
Well, Tushka's answer is Heat or Collateral. He would drive 5+ or 10+ hours to see. Haskell says Avengers Endgame. So I don't know.
Yes, that was where I was going. I was
really?
In a theater, Endgame. Yeah, that's. It takes a lot for something to get up there with Star Wars and Raiders, and Paul knows this. I knocked them both down when Endgame came out. I go, this is my favorite movie of all time. It might only be a month, something else. Raiders or Star Wars is going to get back up there, but I'm like, Endgame, it was everything I stand for in movies, mostly superheroes.
I could see that. Endgame. Jake says, I ain't driving 10 hours for shit. I'd fly. Yeah, that's your younger generation. You don't know how to work for the things to enjoy them. The drive is part of the process, Jake. All right, anyway.
Yeah, it's also 10 hours. No, I'm just saying 10 hours. You could listen to all of the Ford Fiesta. That is a podcast about Harrison Ford that on the moviesguys.net. You could listen to every episode, and by the time you were done, you would be there. So a Harrison Ford movie is what I'd suggest.
I agree with that. Also, what Jake said is just very Jake.
It is. I know.
Extremely Jake. Right?
I'm just appreciating that he's in here. Thanks for being in here, Jake. For me, it's 5 hours would probably be Blade Runner. If there's a new print of Blade Runner,
right?
And just to stay with the Harrison Ford track, only as a minor character, the 10 hours would probably be Apocalypse. Apocalypse Now, I would drive 10 hours to see that one. Or I've heard it was announced today on Twitter by some people who've got good connections with Criterion that they're coming out with a 4K of Citizen Kane. I might drive 10 hours to see a 4K version of Citizen Kane. That's my number one film. It'll never be unseated. And I would do that. I would drive 10 hours to see a 4K of Citizen Kane because I love that fucking movie.
Right. And also Citizen. Yeah, go ahead.
Because that movie gets a lot of guff for just being like film school, and that it built a lot of different ways that people make movies now. But that movie the story and acting are also just entertaining as hell. That movie is great.
Right.
It's spun around where it's even more topical now. I mean, it's Rupert Murdoch. It's fucking Bezos. It's all those things. They're a media mogul controlling how things are being how information is being disseminated.
Yeah, the Rupert Murdoch of the time is what he's poking fun at.
Exactly. Hearst. Yeah, exactly. Great point.
Hearst, yeah.
Go ahead, Adam.
By the way, good point with Apocalypse Now, I want to say, because when the final cut was released, I think it was Paul and I, we went to go see that in IMAX.
Yeah. Wow.
And I got to say, it was such a transformative experience. That's why I would agree with Apocalypse Now, having seen it again in IMAX, because when you watch Filmmaker's Apocalypse, Heart of Darkness, the documentary, right?
Great documentary.
Great documentary. And I used to say that I like that better than Apocalypse Now. But of course, silly Adam, that's only because you've seen Apocalypse Now on VHS. Right. Once you see it in the theater, you realize, like, when he goes off in that thing, he goes, everybody's acting like I'm making some sort of artsy film. He goes, no, this is in the tradition of Irwin Allen, which is the guy that made Towering Inferno and Poseidon Adventure. And he goes, no, this is slam bang, action, fun, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I've never seen that version of Apocalypse Now. And I've seen Apocalypse Now. But when we went back to the IMAX with a new sound mix and everything, you're like, I see the exciting, super fun, non-pretentious version of Apocalypse Now. In fact, to the point where when Robert Duvall comes in, and I never realized this, much like you never realize till you see in a theater certain things, like I never realized how funny American Graffiti was till I saw it in the theater because you're not with an audience. I never realized that Robert Duvall, everything he says is hilarious.
Yes.
Because it's playing so antithetical to the moment. You're like, he's the only guy that's this fucking comfortable and like just so lived in and like, hey, let's doing this and doing that. And then the music plays the dun 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 dun
Rise of the Valkyries.
Ride of the Valkyries. And I always just thought that was a badass thing that somebody did in that movie. And I'm like, no, that's also hilarious because you don't do that. What are you doing?
You don't announce your presence before you show up. It's completely antithetical to every kind of logic. And you're right. And that's what he serves as. He serves as he's essentially the American penis in human form. It is what he is for the whole movie. And
it must have sounded like I was watching Borat while that scene was happening because it's hilarious.
It is. Yeah. Because I mean, even the sequence when he's like, this Vietnamese soldier is dying and wants water, and the soldier won't give him water because he was fighting him just a few seconds ago. Duvall gets pissed, grabs the water and says, if he's going to hold his guts in, he can drink from my canteen any day. And then someone comes along and goes, hey, what's this? Lance is here. He just drops the fucking canteen. Like in that moment, like in one moment he's magnanimous, but the keys get jangled and he completely forgets what he just did. And that's why he's an American penis, fully as in human form throughout that movie.
And I never realized I love the smell of napalm in the morning was a gigantic laugh line. But once you're in the mode of that, it's like, oh my God, what?
Right. Him coming after Lance for the surfboard is hilarious.
I have fun. Because I've never seen this on the big screen. I just realized I'd never seen this on the big screen. It's in my top 10 movies ever made. My vote for most underrated film there is. And that's Birdie. Alan Parker's Birdie. And I've never seen it on the big screen. I rented that when I was a kid, and I've seen it on and off since then, but never on the big screen. I think that would be an experience because Alan Parker made the shit out of that movie. Every sequence he does, whether it's the streets of Philadelphia or in Vietnam, has the equal amount of style and production value, and that's Matthew Modine and Nicolas Cage in their prime, and it's really, really good with a killer.
Elizabeth McGovern. That's why one of us of our age should be question writer in the show. I'm sick of these 20-year-olds. No offense, but they don't know what Birdie is. You want to survive an 80s fucking slice? Let us write some questions from the 80s for God's sake.
So 87, 88, and 89.
Exactly. Richard E. Grant. How about how to get ahead in advertising? That one, or how to succeed in advertising. Whatever. Rose a second head.
I think it was a head.
God damn it.
Let's talk about With Nail and I. Where's the With Nail and I slice?
Come on. Sid and Nancy, for fuck's sake. All right. Tuska Theatrics also. Oh, no, he already asked about that. Okay. Sorry. Jim Sandlin says, one of my first movie experiences was E.T. And thank you, Jim, for the very kind donation. He said, and my brother and I went to the movie, but it was sold out. So we got tickets to another movie, but snuck into E.T. anyways. Nice. Very exciting for an 8-year-old. Do you guys have an early childhood movie experience that sticks with you? All right, we're running out. We've got 21 minutes. We've got 4 more of these to get to. So can we get to them real quick? Yes.
I want to know what the movie he bought tickets to sneak in, because I'm trying to think like what was in theaters at the time. We had this discussion with Karen once because there were 2 movies the day she watched Ghostbusters. There were 2 movies playing, and I'm like, I just thought there's an alternate Karen that didn't go to Ghostbusters, instead went to Breakin', or whatever it was.
And then was a big
Shabadoo fan. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. All the shirts and all the Shabadoo shirts.
Do you have an early childhood movie experience that sticks with you? Was it your dad taking you to Star Wars, Paul? Is that your answer?
Yeah, okay. I didn't sneak into too many movies, but I did get my grandma to get like 5 of us into rated R movies like Fast Times at Ridgemont High and stuff back in the day. Yeah,
fun.
I just bought that on Criterion. I can't wait to watch the special features. What about you, Adam? Do you have one?
Yes. Okay. So there was a summer of '83, and they released all these 3D movies. Friday the 13th Part 3.
Oh yeah.
Actually, 82. Great trick question, but I couldn't see that. But I could see Jaws 3.
Oh God.
Oh nope, I'm gonna call an audible. I got a better experience.
Okay.
So every once in a while, my parents split up, and so every Sunday I would watch a movie with my dad. He would take me to whatever movie I wanted, which a lot of kids didn't get that. That's kind of another reason that makes me me. As stepdad was an artist, but I also had a dad take me to movies literally every Sunday for for 8 or 9 years there. We would sometimes do double features on our own where he would pay for 2 movies, and again, I'll also say, that poor man, because he would go see anything I asked. And I do remember a double feature of Superman 3 and Jaws 3, and then later a double feature of Superman 4 and Jaws 4.
Oh.
But that's not what I'm here to talk about.
Okay.
That poor man. That poor man also saw When Savannah Smiles twice in theaters. But they did an actual double feature where you bought 1 ticket and you got to watch both, and they ran them back to back. Aliens and The Fly.
Oh,
I was working at the theater then. Yeah.
That was like an actual sanctioned double feature from the studios.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh,
man. Those are 2 fantastic fucking movies.
Woo! I was not prepared for the joy that day would bring, Oh, man. I mean, it was actually the other way. It was The Fly and then Aliens. So, The Fly, it's already cool because you're like, seeing it. Maybe I shouldn't be seeing this movie. It's got some gross stuff in it, or whatever.
Right.
But then you go to Aliens. I don't think I'd even seen Alien yet, but I'm like, but I knew it was the guy from the Terminator who I tried to tell my friends about, but they wanted to go out and play guns. But anyway.
That's 20th Century Fox doing a summer right there.
Yeah.
That's great.
Boy, that was fun.
Yeah. Goldblum, that's the movie that solidified Goldblum for me forever.
Beaver Creek Cinemas in Dayton, Ohio, yeah.
Oh, nice. Go Flyers. Jake Yacovetta says, my favorite Harrison Ford saga is him in real life trying to land a plane and failing every time. You know what, Jake?
Is he larger than life or what, Harrison Ford? The guy actually flies actual World War II aircraft and actually crash lands them on golf courses and walks out 4 or whatever cool thing he said when he got out.
Exactly.
Get that off the lawn, will you? All right.
Clean that off the lawn.
Tushka says, great conversation so far. Love the casting and critic talks. What is the worst movie with the best cast? Or what was one of your most anticipated movies that let you down? Ooh, good question.
That's Crystal Skull for me.
Yeah, Paul was real disappointed.
Yeah. Okay.
I had here's and it also involves a sneaking into a movie story.
Oh.
Because I saw it, Crystal Skull, and I was just silent the whole movie. Friends kept going, is he okay? Is he like this? I'm like,
this is why Paul should watch all movies with me.
Yeah, I don't do anything until it's over. I walked out and I go, that was fucking terrible. And so then the whole conversation started. Like, oh, thank God you thought that, because we were all there. And then the whole talk started. I go to see Iron Man, I think, which came out a little later. Yeah. And Iron Man was great. And I'm like, should we just sneak into Crystal Skull? Because I had to have missed something, right? So we sneak in, we sit down, they do the quicksand scene. And my friend Steve leans over and goes, it's not going to get any better. I was like, yeah, let's get out of here. So we left. Like, I gave it like another 10 minutes. I was like, this is horrible. With Jar Jar John Hurt and the snake and all that. It was terrible.
Yeah.
But John Hurt is in that movie. That's. I mean, of all the Indiana Jones movies, that is the best cast.
And that also wins for best cast that disappointed me in the worst.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I like Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but I do have to say, it probably qualifies as a bad movie. That probably does qualify for the best cast in a bad movie.
Yeah.
Because that cast is really good, and the movie is not as good as that cast. I'll say that.
Worst movie with the best cast? That's a great question. I don't know. All New Year's Day? I don't know. Those films. Those films. I mean, that film. That
film's cheating.
Horrible.
Besides New Year's Day, I think he meant besides New Year's Day.
That's fair. Oh shit! I don't know. I don't know. Clue. I hate Clue.
You hate Clue?
No. I do.
Hey, what do you think of Red Dragon? That's an amazing cast, and I do like that movie. Yeah. But I think that cast outclasses that Brett Ratner movie.
Any cast outclasses Brett Ratner.
I mean, I'm amazed at that cast in that movie.
Yeah, Ray Fiennes, Emily Watson.
I think it's fine, that movie, but...
Edward Norton, Mary Louise Parker, and Hopkins. Yeah. And who's... is Keitel her boss? Or Keitel his boss? Harvey Keitel's his boss. That's right.
Is Keitel in that too? I've forgotten at this point, but I just remember at the time... Yeah, reading an interview or something where someone's like, that's one of the most amazing casts for an okay movie, kind of pretty good.
Yeah. Anticipated movie that let you down. Do you have one, Adam? You're so positive. Do you have one that let you down?
Oh, anticipated movie that let me down.
Yeah.
Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance.
Boy, way to take a risk there, Adam.
Man.
Steel?
I would say that Superman 4. Because
I wasn't disappointed by Superman 4 at all. I mean, at the time,
Jesus
I get it. I get why people are disappointed, but
yeah, because 3, I was like, all right, it's Richard Pryor. I'll forgive it. And then I went to see 4, and I was like, what?
The Dolph Lundgren Punisher. I'll go with that.
Oh, Jesus.
Could have been so much better.
Doug Developer says, speaking of Harrison Ford, Scorsese desperately wanted him for the role of Sam Bowden in Cape Fear. How much better do you think the film would have been had he replaced Nolte? I think Ford going mano a mano against De Niro would have been fucking badass.
Whoa. Did not know that.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Stepping back, having heard this for the first time, that role is suited to a T for Ford. That is a Ford role. Protect my family, crazy. Yeah. The guy do all that stuff. I thought Nolte killed it though. I thought he was great in that role. So it's kind of a tough call. I don't know if it would necessarily been better, but totally would have been suited.
I mean, we missed our opportunity. Is Scorsese ever going to direct Harrison Ford? No, that would be our one chance to. No. And that is a very un-Scorsese movie, not all the time, but, in some ways, especially that ending, you're like, that's a much more Harrison Ford kind of ending than Scorsese. It gets nuts, that movie. Wow. I'd never heard that before. I'm
just thinking of scenes in my head with Nolte where he kind of has a little bit of the Harrison Ford aspect of it all. Yeah. Like when he's talking with Mitchum outside the courthouse, and he's just like, say, well, I can't be doing this. Right. And that having Harrison do that would have had a little more weight in those sequences, right? I mean, it's still a pretty fucked up family, which makes sense as Nolte with its patriarch. But with Harrison, I wonder would you have cast Juliette Lewis? Would that have made sense with Jessica Lange that's your daughter? And would he have been a negligent dad enough to allow that kind of a situation?
So this is 1991?
4? Or no, 1. Maybe you're right. Maybe 1, yeah.
So this is before Patriot Games, or maybe the same year as Patriot Games. That's
Cape Fear is 91.
91. So that would be the movie he did before Patriot Games. That would kind of perfectly cap off that tail end of, maybe you call it Harrison Ford 2.0. Maybe 3.0 starts with Patriot Games, but that would be a really interesting end to a time that included, so many of his more eccentric movies, and Witness and Frantic.
I
mean, the guy from Frantic should be in Cape Fear.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The guy from Mosquito Coast should definitely be in Cape Fear. So that's really too bad.
I just love Nolte in that movie so much.
Yeah, so do I. And I think the update by the screenwriter was excellent.
But can you really love Nolte?
I do, especially in Warrior. I love him in Warrior.
Yeah,
I like it. I know he's an asshole, but I love him. I do. I like that crushy old fuck, and especially in Tropic Thunder. Holy shit, this is hilarious.
The number of actors. Come on, Hulk. Don't you turn into the Hulk on me.
That shit.
Let me hear that shit.
That's why your mother hated you. What? Justin Toner says, hi, John. Thanks to Paul and Adam for being here tonight. Absolutely. As we're getting close to wrapping up here, since Hitchcock is my favorite director, I would like to know what Alfred Hitchcock film Paul and Adam enjoy the most. All right, gentlemen.
Ooh, I love me some Hitchcock.
What's your favorite? Which one? Or at least the one you enjoy the most.
Paul, have you ever gone on a bender where you just watch tons of Hitchcock? I did that once in college, and it's just the best. Just watching.
I should do that. Yeah,
especially in order.
I might be a little underversed on Hitchcock and some of the fringe stuff of his I haven't seen. But I got to go mainstream on this one, not be too shocking, with North by Northwest. I like Psycho. The cop's description of everything that happens, it goes on for like 10, 15 minutes at the end, is a little like, this could have been more exciting.
Pulp.
Whereas North by Northwest is just exciting, beginning to end, funny, super funny. And, and then there's a big Freudian shot at the end. That's fun.
Hello.
I've always been obsessed with Psycho. I just love Psycho. I mean, because that started before I even learned about Hitchcock. That was lumped in when I loved horror movies and slasher movies. I mean, when we finally got the VCR and you could watch slasher movies in your house, like that, just for a bunch of us 7th and 8th graders, you're like, this is our life, is slasher movies. And so Psycho always fell into that. So I never studied it as a classic or even as a Hitchcock movie, but I always watched Psycho. And then later I get into college, I start studying film, you start studying Hitchcock, then you watch Psycho again and it's a whole new movie. And then it continually gets to be a whole new movie. And then you read about the making of Psycho and you're like, oh my God, it's this totally radical, like George Lucas style, like stick a thumb in the eye of the studio. I'm making this tiny black and white thing. I'm making it my way. I'm mortgaging my house for Psycho, for this very exploitative movie. So like Psycho really, and also just like such pitch perfect. Like he had just gotten his Hitchcock thing down and was like, I don't need to do this as big as North by Northwest anymore. He's like, once he saw TV crews, was like, I could take this TV crew from Alfred Hitchcock Presents and make a feature film for like nothing, so I can take all the risks. So, that's stuff I learned years and years later about Psycho. So now Psycho plays on all these great levels. Just, Psycho, it's always Psycho for me. It's, even though I've went back and appreciate everything else he does. Rebecca is my second, by the way. And if you can ever see Rebecca in the theater, which I haven't, oh my God, Rebecca, just the tone of that movie. It's so dripping with tension. It's on a very small, subtle level,
I hadn't seen that one, and they're having the 50% off sale at Barnes & Noble for cartoon. So I bought Rebecca unseen. So I'm going to dive into that and watch that one for the first time.
Oh, enjoy.
It's his best picture. So there you go.
Right, true. It's the only one. I'm more of the older stuff. I love 39 Steps and Lifeboat. Those are my two favorites to go back and watch because they're much more character pieces, much more conversational stuff. Yeah, there's action in 39 Steps, of course, but it's more about this idea of exploring what is happening and him trying to piece it together like a mystery. And Lifeboat is more about this tension of who to trust, who not to trust during the middle of a world war. When you've got, do you save these people who are just trying to sink your boat a few minutes ago? Are you a human? Like, where's the humanity? And when they turn on you, do you now question question your humanity for being nice? It's a great, it's a kind of preview of what he's going to do years later with his films, which is why I love Lifeboat so much.
Well, I'll throw another one in there because you threw in Lifeboat, and I said anytime that Hitchcock ties one arm behind his back to see like, well, can I make a movie without this or that? Because once he was given a blank check of like, well, you can put any star in the world, and the most grandiose, you can travel all over the country and shoot this whole thing. He started tying his arm behind his back a lot of times. My favorite one, which everybody just said, his movies are just a bunch of editing, and he's like, all right, I'm going to do a movie with 4 edits, and it's called Rope.
And I just read that Rope was his first color movie. So that'll be a new hurdle. Better also make this the one where I don't edit ever. Right. He's like, no, I can make a Hitchcock movie with no edits in color. Yeah. So Rope.
And Jimmy Stewart's great in that movie. My God, he's great.
Yeah. And if you want your analysis character, that movie, that character has to analyze a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, we're gonna.
Actually, I think it's 8 edits. Somebody Haskell said 4 edits. I was
edits.
exaggerating. Okay. There's like 8 to 12 edits in that movie.
Jamie Gore says, "Hi guys, hey guys, what's y'all's favorite horror movie, and what's your expectations for Scream 5 or Scream 2022, whatever they're calling it? Thoughts, gentlemen, real quick. I know we got 7 minutes left, so let's. What's your answer to this one?
I can answer that quickly. It's Poltergeist.
Okay.
It's a movie about timing. You know, I was young and saw it in the theater, and I just did not sleep that night. It's a damn fine story combined with fantastic production value that holds up today with every aspect of that movie. And yeah, just found it haunting and brilliant, and we saw it at the New Beverly a couple of years back. They had a 1982 night with that and Rocky 3 double feature. I think New Beverly's the great. We just went to the New Beverly last week. Excalibur and Sword of Lancelot. Our first time back in a year and a half. It was the greatest. They're back to full capacity, so there are tickets. Go out there and get it.
Yeah,
but it didn't disappoint. Once again, my 10th or whatever time seeing it. Second would be Alien, which I saw on TV as a kid with commercials and still didn't sleep.
What about you, Adam?
Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter. And behind that, My Bloody Valentine. I just adore My Bloody Valentine.
Oh, yeah.
I watched that on a date with someone who liked horror movies, and it was like basically a 2-hour monologue about what's great about My Bloody Valentine. So, yeah, I just love this. I mean, again, man, when we got the VCR, it was slasher heaven because they've been making all these slasher movies from Halloween on. About 85, we get the VCR, and the video stores are just chock full of these movies I knew existed. I started reading Fangoria magazine. Oh man, that was an era right there. So slasher movies are like my favorite. Love it. Yeah, Friday the 13th Part 4 and My Bloody Valentine.
Put those on the horror wheels. I spit on your grave on the horror wheels.
I spit on your grave.
I should also say,
banned in 40 countries.
Special points for even though it works on every genre it brings into its fold. Jaws kept people from swimming for 46 years. That is, no movie has come close to having an effect like that on the country. You may not call it a horror movie, but that's one of the great genres in that masterpiece. So
right. I forgot that was a horror movie. I confuse that one sometimes for being a Spielberg movie, but you're correct.
That was going to be my answer.
And so were you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My parents took me at 8 or 9 years old, or I guess did it come out again? They took me and I.
Oh, it was re-released all the time.
Yeah, I went to see it, and my parents took me. I never went past 4 feet of water. I've never been past 4 feet of water in the ocean because of that fucking movie. You know, when you're a large dude like I am, you're a meal to a shark. You get scared about it. So I've never gone past 4 feet out of pure and utter fear. And then Nosferatu, I saw when I was 7 years old or 6 years old, I think.
Werner Herzog's or the other one?
No, the original, because the 78-year-old Latina lady who was taking care of us fell asleep while my parents were going out for the night. I snuck downstairs. She had left the TV on and fell asleep with the remote control. And I'm like sitting under the coffee table so she can't see me. And fucking Nosferatu came up and he came out of the thing. And I screamed my motherfucking face off. And I didn't sleep all night. My dad had to be in the room with me. And I just kept waking up screaming. It was nutty, man. Nutty. So that would be my answer 1,000%. With Poltergeist, though, Paul, it confused me because it scared the shit out of me. But then I was so in love with Jo Beth Williams. And when she's rolling around and you see her panties, I was like, I'm so in love right now. I don't know what to do. I'm scared and turned on. This is freaky. So, yeah, I agree.
See what a great movie it is.
One last one. Doug Developer, hello again. Are there any infamous films that killed the directors' careers in which you didn't think was that bad? Films like Heaven's Gate, Howard the Duck, or Ishtar. I don't think Ishtar was all that bad, to be honest.
Yeah, that's one of them that people always bring up because that's, that got an undeserved bad reputation because of the budget, which is so funny. Like, people randomly cared about budget back then. Oh, here it has a high budget. I'm like, I've never heard you mention the budget of a movie. Now you hate Ishtar? Like, come on. Suddenly you're such a film critic because you love budgets so much? Like, what's going on?
I would say... My choice is a guy who's still working, but his last 2 films did not have that much hype after Ghostbusters 2016. That's Paul Feig. But Adam and I would both counter that Ghostbusters 2016 is chock full of jokes.
Yeah.
Wall-to-wall jokes.
Constant.
Now, you go in to see that movie and you kind of get lost in the goalposts it has to hit to be a Ghostbusters movie. We come together, we get our fourth person, we get the car, we get our location, we go on our first job, and you just kind of get lost in all those things, and they seem so familiar, but you're trying to differentiate them from the original. See it a second time, and you're like, this is just wall-to-wall jokes. They don't all work, but there's a shitload of jokes. And Paul
3
Feig
jokes a minute, solid in that movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Paul Feig before that was so funny and everything. I mean, Bridesmaid, Spy was hilarious.
Spy is amazing.
Spy's so funny.
Yeah,
and people like A Simple Favor. People think A Simple Favor is a damn good movie. So he's
I haven't seen that.
He's
I
getting
don't think
lost.
A Simple Favor or The Last Christmas hit the streak he had before then. And I think it's because of what we kind of just talked about, the budget for Ghostbusters being 150 million when it makes 116. It made 150 on 116, which you think would be great, but of course with marketing and all that, it's a failure. If that movie was made for 40 million, they'd make another one, and then we get more jokes. But now they mismanaged the shit out of that, and Paul Feig unfortunately fell under the guillotine, and I hate that because the guy's hilarious.
Yes.
By the way, the director's cut of that movie. Now, ordinarily director's cuts, you say, they add stuff back in that should have been cut out. That's one of the rare director's cuts I've ever seen, and I own this version of it because he puts every joke that got cut out for time back into each scene. It's not one scene that he adds back or 2 or 3. It's as soon as I started watching the movie, I saw it a few times in the theater too. I was like, that's a new joke. And then like a minute later, I'm like, that's a new joke. And I realized like, he went back and edited all the... So like there's almost twice as many jokes in the director's cut as there are in the regular one. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And I Heaven's Gate is not a bad movie. It's not. I don't know why people jump on it because it ruined Schmoedown, and it's a shame. It's not a great movie, but it's not anywhere near what people think. It's like as horrible as people. But
it's so weird. It adds so much luxury and so much beauty to nothing. You're like, this. I admit this is the best roller skating I've ever seen in an 1890s period piece Western. But who gives a shit? And you're like, and that was a reshoot that cost an extra $30 million or something. You're like, come on. And the other thing, the thing about that's a fun movie to watch for actually how unconscionably over budget it is. It's like, does there have to be 1,100 people in the street? I understand it would have been a busy town, and I haven't seen a lot of Westerns with a busy street, but 1,100 extras that all have to get reset every time for Chris Christopherson to get off a stagecoach when you could have just cut to the interior? I mean, you're like, it's unconscionably over budget.
And I would like to put in one more vote for this movie. Unfortunately, killed the career of more live action movies from Andrew Stanton, even though Finding Dory was a huge hit. But John Carter's excellent science fiction.
That is excellent.
And it got crapped on, and it's unfortunate.
I'll throw North, which pretty much killed Rob Reiner for everybody.
It did kill Rob Reiner.
I mean, he was on that run, and then North came out, and then it just kind of completely shut down. Or you could throw whatever the Coppola, Jack, or whatever it was around that time, whatever film Coppola did around that time. That was it. I mean, Tucker, A Man in His Dream. I thought that was a damn good movie, and nobody went to see that fucking thing.
No.
And then a couple of years later, I think it was Jack, and then that was pretty much it for Coppola. So still.
Yeah, and even when we went back to doing like little self-financed indie films that are as pure nobody can name those movies. That's like 3 movies. Too little, too late, I guess. Yeah.
One with Vincent Gallo, and you're like, no, this makes no sense what you're doing. So stop. All right, and I think is that everything? Oh yeah, Ray Dominguez the third says, catching the replay. Cheers, gents. Love you. All right, thank you very much, Ray. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Paul Preston. Thank you, Adam Witt. Please, it's time to actually do it. Go ahead, plug away everything. I know you guys got to go, so plug everything you got to plug.
The Ford Fiesta with theme music by David B. We never credit him enough in the movie. We love our little siesta version of the Raiders of the Lost Ark theme in it. We are covering every single Harrison Ford movies, and I think, and if you watch this, then you know we like Harrison Ford.
There you go.
Yes, like I said, the first 5 movies of his career in the first 5 episodes of our show are the most fun you can have with a movie you don't know anything about. We certainly did. I think it translates for the listener. And now we're just getting into the big ones. We just did American Graffiti, Conversation, and Star Wars. And then our next one we'll post in the next couple of weeks will be Heroes, and that'll be the same type of thing. You heard us sort of dabble in what is Heroes. It's the Fonz and Indiana Jones doing stuff. Yes, and we will put that out within the next week or so, and you can enjoy that.
Are you going by order, or are you going by choice?
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Straight in order. Straight in order. Right. So I'll give you a fun fact, because as we're going through it, we're keeping count of how many times Harrison Ford punches someone, how many times he points with righteous anger, how many times he shouts. We've got a running tally because we're looking for our real Harrison Ford meat, Does he play a romantic lead? Does he sing Some Enchanted Evening? These are things that we look for Harrison Ford. My favorite statistic, because up until Force 10 from Navarone, he only punched one person, right, Paul? I have that right. Up until Force 10.
Correct.
Yeah.
He only punched one person on air. Now, here is a guy who in movies is going to punch quite a few people. Can you tell me the actor that Harrison Ford is the very first person he punches, and for his first 8 movies is the only person he punches?
Wow.
What actor? What actor, rather, yeah.
Is it in Force 10 from Navarone?
No. It's until Force 10, he only punches one person on screen in his first... I guess 8 movies. Is that?
Yeah, he doesn't punch anybody in Star Wars. So
doesn't punch anybody in Star Wars.
Way back.
That is the first time he shoots someone. But
what is it? Who is it?
Jack Lemmon.
In what film is this?
It's called Love. It's based on a Murray Schiskal play. It's Peter Falk and Jack Lemmon. Harrison Ford's got one line, and then he punches Jack Lemmon in the face. Glorious.
Murray Schiskal. Well, I'm sorry we didn't get to the Schmodown stuff, gentlemen. This was just a fun conversation for sure. But please feel free to anything else to plug, social media.
It's Harrison Ford's birthday.
Happy birthday
to
you.
Happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday to me.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
Sorry, Mr. President. I don't dance.
That's my favorite.
I don't dance.
Well, thank you both for coming on the show. I love you guys. You guys are so much fun, and you're quick wits. And the 2 hours flew by. So thank you very, very much. And thanks to everybody who sent in the Streamlabs, the super chat for these wonderful gentlemen. I guess this is it for you guys. Go on ahead with the rest of your night. I know you got to run off to do stuff. So thank you again. And please follow them, ladies and gentlemen, wherever their social media, whatever they're doing on social media, follow them on their social medias so you can be updated about all the content they are producing and generating for you to enjoy and laugh along with and get educated by, for sure. Cool. All right. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Adam. Have a good rest of your days. See you guys. Peace.
Good to see you again.
You too. All right, there they go, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Preston and Adam Witt, the movie guys there, of course. We didn't get to the Schmodown stuff. I'm sorry. It was just like so much fun talking movies, and sometimes you forget that you got to get to other things as well. But they were so great to hang out for a couple hours. They got to run off and do another thing, or else we would have started a little bit later. But thank you all so much for the love you gave them and for the Streamlabs and the Super Chats, asking them questions and getting some great conversations. I hope you enjoyed the conversations for sure. I'm going to wrap up as well. I got to get out of here. I got to go rest a little bit. I've got other things going on tomorrow morning I got to get prepared for. So I just want to tell you all, thank you so much for watching tonight. Please remember to hit that like button and leave a comment down below. Always appreciate that. And thank you to Sean Barito, who produces the show with me and helps to monitor the chat to make sure we get no negative responses or negative comments going down. And you all were very, very fun to listen to and very fun to read along with and have your back and forth for sure. Yes, absolutely. Happy birthday to Harrison Ford. Everybody saying it now. Absolutely. Happy birthday. Great stuff from him. And please go and listen to Ford Fiesta. Give those guys some love. And I got to think of a movie. I mean, it might end up being Presumed Innocent just because I want to champion that movie a little bit. We'll see for sure. But I'll definitely be looking forward to being on that show with them. And as for me, as I said earlier in the show, maybe some of you coming in a little bit late. Please remember, we got so much going on here on the Outlaw Nation channel. Subscribe to the channel down below. Hit that bell button. We got trailer reactions, reviews. We got live shows coming up. The Geek Buddies drops tomorrow. We've got a live Loki review we are doing Thursday night. I'm announcing that now. Thursday night, live Loki review of the finale. Me, Vogel, Shannon McClung, Emma Fife, and possibly Laura Kelly. Depends on her schedule. Laura Kelly, she has a 5th chair that we've reserved for her. If she can't make it, it'll just be the 4 of us, but we want her as our 5th, and we'll see if she can make it. And it'll be 5 p.m. PT on Thursday night. So put that in your calendars, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to everyone who watched our Black Widow live review on Sunday night on the Geek Buddies. That was a lot of fun. I had almost 600 people watching us live. That meant so much. So thank you very much. And please watch all the stuff we got going on here as well. Besides the Geek Buddies stuff, got the reviews, got the trailer reactions, also got John and Wendy Explain the World, got Game Time, which dropped yesterday, and Jedi will be coming back next week for sure. And then we're doing the Bad Batch reviews next week as well. So a lot of content happening here on the channel. Please share everything we do on your social media. And follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And hey, if you want to follow me on Twitch, The Outlaw Nation, all one word, I'm on there. Going to be playing some games very, very soon, setting aside some streaming schedule for that as well. And if you want to come along and be a part of the Patreon, it's patreon.com/John Rocha. See all the things that are going on. We're changing the tiers to make it, to have you guys have more benefits for what you're paying, more access as well. And we've got those Patreon shows coming out that you all will be able to contribute to, vote on, decide what movies we're going to talk about, and also send in questions and what match we're going to talk about when we do the Outlaw Rides again. So thank you all for being a part of that. So come aboard the train, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get a big, big nation. Let's get that Patreon to be huge so we can have fun conversations with our twice weekly hangouts that we do, one in the Discord on a voice hangout and then one on camera on Zoom, all of us hanging out and having fun talking about movies and talking about life. So it's great times for sure. All right. I think that's it. Is that it? I think that's it. All right. Much love to you guys. Take care of yourselves. Be well. And we'll talk to you next time with another brand new live episode of the Outlaw Nation Show. And I'm going to end it like I end every show. Please, whatever you need to do to get through the next second, next minute, next hour, next day, next week, next month, next year, I want you to do that. You know, you never know what's going to be waiting for you on the other side. As I say every week, in 2016, I almost took my life. I was this close to ending my life. And look at all that's happened in the last 5 years in my life, the incredible things that have happened because I got the help I needed and people stepped up to the plate who are my friends to help me get the help I needed to climb out of the hole. So I've been there. I've been in the darkest of places. And I found my way out one step at a time, even one toe of a step at a time. It matters. Just know we love you. I love you. And I want you around hanging out to see what happens with the Outlaw Nation outlet as we grow. So please come on back next week. Hang out with us. I love you. Take care. Be well.